Hello, hi, welcome back to my channel, everybody. Hi, my name is Patrick. This is the Hierophant. I wanted to get into the SKT, so we're not quite going to the solar plexus yet, more or less series, because I do that now, apparently. Now, I've been doing it. But I want to pull some of the SKT. I actually don't know why I'm doing this, because I was going to separate them out, excuse me, before I went live, but that didn't happen, so, well, we're going to do it on camera. And I guess it just hit me today. And I feel like after I recorded, so I recorded a video on my Legacy channel. The Nine of Cups and the Queen of Swords at the bottom of the deck, followed by the Queen of Cups. Interesting. So two shields, and then the Seeker right behind that. Right? So with the Seeker coming out right behind this, I just feel like there are some certain things that we were wishing for that lied outside of the bounds of what we sort of allow ourselves to feel and think about with the cups and the swords. But we were seeking sort of passage into that space. But again, it's like it was beyond where we allow ourselves to go. So how do we expect to sort of, find anything? But anyway, so yeah, I went live on my Legacy channel. And by the end of it, Loki, I kind of sort of feel a little hypocritical because I'm like, I wasn't even using this channel, and this is the channel where I had the most sort of presence. But at the same time, for me personally, it's like that channel, especially for what it was when I made this, it wouldn't have given me the space and the platform to talk as freely as I do over here. And so, yeah. And it was just some stuff that, I've been sort of thinking about. Not, I mean, like I've already said all of it over here, but trying to say it in a way that's a little more, from the heart and not necessarily from the whatever place that must be coming from. It's like it's still from the heart, but it's like, in a way that's a little nicer, I guess. Gentler, in a gentler way, in a gentler capacity. Especially with some of these folks. I'm just like, oh, the Sun and the Empress were together. Interesting. So I'm just gonna go through maybe two of these, maybe one of these. I haven't used the SKT in a minute, and I'm wanting to use it, so that's what I'm doing. And we'll see what comes out. The Three of Pentacles and the Three of Cups into the Four of Wands. 3-3-4. Oh, here's the Ten of Cups. Y'all see this Ten of Cups? I just talked about it. So y'all see that glyph of Mars? And y'all see that glyph of Pisces? Maybe not, but it's enough. Mars is the Decan ruler of the third Decan of Pisces, which is the Ten of Cups. I was like, wow, they really gonna have us sitting out on Ten of Cups energy. Not I. And I will do my darndest to make sure that for anyone who will come across me, they will know, just like I know now, that Mars and Pisces is not lost. Mars and Pisces is found. Mars is found in Pisces. Mars probably gets meaning in Pisces, honestly, low key, not gonna lie. Because maybe Pisces, maybe Capricorn, but Mars might like being in Capricorn. I can't remember. But it's like it's one of the places where Mars is kind of sort of challenged, right? It's like, what is it all for? Pisces is one of the energies that asks Mars, like, what is it all for? Like, why do you fight? Why are you doing this? And it's an opportunity for Mars to, like, actually have something worth fighting for instead of just fighting, right? It's like Uranus maybe in an earth sign, or maybe not. Because, like, Uranus is a planet of, like, rebellion and stuff like that. But it's like, what are you rebelling for? What are you fighting for? What is all of this for? That's what Mars gets to go through in Pisces. And then it comes back into Aries, renewed and refreshed with a vision, ready to fight. Okay. Ooh, girl. See my card. So the Nocturne, the two pentacles is gonna be this pile over here. And I'm actually gonna read that from the book because it's very interesting. And I think I read it from the book before, but I'm gonna read it again. Let's see. I kind of sort of been over there a little bit lately, haven't I? Like I don't know. For that channel, like if ever I'm like getting into something, or if I feel like there's something worth getting into, I'd rather do it over here, honestly. And then over there, it's like kind of sort of whatever comes up, but also like I try to take a gentler, less straightforward approach. If I'm being honest, right? You might have to pad things a little bit over there. Might have to dilute a little bit over there, and maybe not honestly, because who does that serve? You know what I mean? But also, you got to say things in a way that people are get it, right, and that people understand. So it's a balance. The Ogdode and the four twos. Ooh, so the realm of the twos is the realm of provision. Let's talk about the realm of twos for a second, shall we? In the Kabbalistic tree of life, the realm of twos arises from the Sephira Chokmah, or divine wisdom. That's the right eye is Chokmah, so I believe. Um, it is God's agent in creation. It is the intellection behind creation. This is the number of balance and cooperation. It is the sacred number of the minister. The numerological progenitors in the major arcana are the priestess, the chancellor, and the apocalypse. That's the high priestess, judgment, and justice. Okay, you're not gonna cooperate today. You're not gonna. There we go. The Ogdode and the four twos. So in the SKT, the four twos also designate the Egyptian Ogdode, or eight primordial deities. These are the four gods and their four consorts born out of the numinous void after the monad, or one divinity. Through the nucleic seeds, the one gave birth to the two, and here the four aspects of the two are the eight. Ooh, 2 and 8, 28. Scorpio and Pisces. Taurus and Scorpio. So fire is Cook and Coquette. Water is Noon and Naunet. Air is Amun and Amnet. Aminet? Yeah, Aminet. And then Earth is Ha and Hauhet. So this is Pinnacle. So I don't know if I'm pronouncing any of these right, but Ha is the god of the infinite and of eternity. He and his female consort, Hauhet, are the floods and forces majeur. Girl, is that how you say major in French? He and his consort, Hauhet, are the floods and forces majeur that created the material world we dwell upon. This is the black of the earth along the Nile River. The discerning one and the two of scepters. Okay, yeah. The discerning one and the two scepters is the union of Kuk and Kaukat, manifested in our physical world. The joined one and the two of chalices is Nun and Onet in union. The blind seer is Amun and Amunet joined. The nocturne and the two of orbs is Ha Arhe and Hauhet in union. Upon further examination of the illustrations for these four twos, you'll see how the Egyptian Ogdod are depicted in the keys. The Vajra and Eastern esotericism invoke thunder and lightning, which are sigils placed on the two. Let's look at the two of what we're looking at, because you know that would be more helpful. Huh or hey? Hey and Howhet? Hun and Howhet are the infinity and the eternity. So here in the Two of Orbs, oh, girl, almost picked up the keeper. So here in the Two of Orbs, I guess this gives you something to look at. There you go. So here in the Two of Orbs, we see the limnus gate or infinity symbol. They are also the floods, and so at the bottom of the card is the depiction of the dark waters. So they look the same, but one's got like thingies in it. Okay, she go all the way in on like everything, y'all. So let's just let's just get to the entry. So upright, this is Nehemiah, and the ruling angel here is Michael. Revelation, Revelation. This card brings: to make gold, you must first have it. Two wheels reminiscent of the wheel of life from key 10 appear before a dark night sky. A dark night sky. We're going into the blue lunar storm. It's the Blue Night Clan or chromatic whatever. It's the blue clan, the chromatic blue chromatic. It's blue, y'all. It's about the void, okay? Even though my dude was like Arguelles and his system is like, oof. I was like, girl, ain't nothing right. So the top wheel is similar to the one from key 10. The bottom, however, has the same symbols but in reverse arrangement. At the center of each wheel is an orb, coiled around the two wheels to form a lemniscate. A lemniscate? I've heard this word pronounced before. Lemniscate. Maybe. Lemniscate. Hey Siri, what is a lemniscate?
The lemniscate, also called the lemniscate of Bernoulli, has a polar curve whose most common form is the locus of points, the product of whose distances from two fixed points, called a foci. A distance to a way is the constant squared. This gives a Cartesian equation xc cap 2 plus y squared, x plus c cap 2 plus y squared equals c4, where both sides of the equation have been squared. Expanding and simplifying then gives x squared plus y squared, cap 2 equals 2c squared x squared y squared.
Siri couldn't just say the infinity symbol. Apparently, Siri can't just say the infinity symbol. The lemniscate. Okay. Because that's what I was like. I think it's lemniscate, but it's not like a biscuit. And I just ate, but I can't go for another one. Coiled around the two wheels to form a lemniscate is a serpent, the ouroboros, swallowing its own tail. Near the top along the serpent's body is the sign of the north lunar node. Near the bottom, the sign of the south lunar node. That's also interesting because the moon does have nodes and we're coming into a lunar year. Excuse me. So, and then there's a lot of like polarity that we're kind of sort of looking at nowadays. Everything is in Gemini or about Gemini nowadays, right? With the nodes and everything else. Um, Along the bottom is the upper sea with large waves and two ships sailing in opposing directions. The ships are symbolic of commerce, enterprise, ventures, new and far reaching expenditures, and risk. Note the sign of the north lunar node is featured on key 8, the forest from the majors, and the south node is featured on key 15, the demon. I've showed y'all that before. Both key 8 and 15 feature the coiled serpent motif. The nocturne brings into reconciliation the force and the demon, strength and the devil. Negredo, girl, the darkening stage in the alchemical process of realizing the great work, is associated archetypically with the dark night of the soul. The nocturne is the alchemical black dragon, a reference to the works of Nicolas Barnot, 1538 to 1603, gnawing its own tail, where venom is the great medicine. The Two of Orbs is also titled the Lord of Harmonious Change. In mundane applications, it is that interim period between the end of one world and the beginning of the next, where you, the creator and the dweller of both these worlds, must juggle both simultaneously in harmony so that the transition might be smooth. When the nocturne appears, you are in transit, and so at the moment must shoulder double the responsibility as you find your center of gravity and figure out how you will balance the old world with the new. Okay? So it's all about harmonious change and balancing the two worlds and making that change as seamless and smooth as possible, right? And sometimes when we're making drastic transitions seamless and smooth, it's sort of like it takes time, right? This card is like it's about living in both worlds and not being consumed in the old world, right? When you're in that moment of transition, and let's see how we show up in this moment of transition, shall we? Or we'll try. Oops, that was quick. Oh well, here we go. Hold up, wait. So that last queen was the Queen of Wands. It was the Queen of Wands and the Queen of Cups together. Because here's the Queen of Swords right here, and she like all the way there. The Scarlet Shield. This is how we're showing up. There we go. This is how we're showing up in this sort of transitional, this liminal sort of phase, right? This moment between moments, these worlds between worlds. And yesterday was the day at a time, even though I'm talking about the day at a time. Yesterday was the day at a time. Today is the new galactic new year. We're coming into, excuse me, a blue storm. The blue storm is all about purification, and the blue storm kind of sort of it resets the board in order for us to play the game again, right? That's what the blue storm does. And so anything that the storm is coming for, girl, let it go. Let it go. Or you can be like the cow and twister that end up in the twister and go when they come across the screen, right? So let's look at this Queen of Swords and let's see if she tells us anything. Because, I feel like reading now. I've been reading for a minute. Let's see if I can find it. Especially like when I got the book on here, like, girl, I'll read all day or a day. I can actually like flip the color so I can see it. This is the Queen of Swords. I just saw Archangel Commander and realized that he ain't show up. So the Queen of Swords is the Scarlet Shield. Maybe she is sacred. The Scarlet Shield, hold up. The Scarlet Shield is an angelic power who appears to the keeper in male form. What? Is the Scarlet Shield the only dude? Oh, snap. I didn't even know. This queen is a man. So she's like a KWEEN queen. Okay. All right, queen, I see you. She may not be the only one. Wow, I didn't. How did I not know that, girl? I've had this deck for like a year now. The Scarlet Shield is an angelic power who appears to the keeper in male form. This is the power and authority of air, whose shield is fortified with the almighty and most divine metal from which the spirit of the sword is forged. The Scarlet Shield's design consists of an ornamental Mesoamerican style mosaic mask made of precious stones of gold, silver, turquoise, obsidian, serpentine, amethyst, opal, and talismanic design of a kamuli or defensive armament. Girl, so Mesoamerican style, love it because we're talking about this, this new year. So hello, I think that's Mesoamerican. I'm like 95% certain that's like Mesoamerican. Um, hold it, girl, what's that word? The head imagery at the base of the shield is also a subtle reference to the head of Holofernes. Is that Holophenes or Holofernes? I can't tell if that's an RN or an M. Holofernes or Holofernes, and the biblical story of Judith, which is often associated with the Queen of Swords. Didn't know that. Above the mosaic mask is the depiction of an eagle devouring a serpent. Oh snap! I've talked about that before, and because it was Apep is the serpent. Sometimes the eagle is like Horus or somebody else. You have Isis, Apep, and Osiris, right? I've talked about that before recently. Here we got Apep again. Apep being sort of that evil and that chaos, right? Above the mosaic mask is the depiction of an eagle devouring a serpent, an important divine omen of establishing dominion under the blessing of the gods. This shield, as a talisman, confers the power of intellection, victory, and fortuitous good luck in all defensive battles. Emphasis on defensive battles, not offensive battles. So if you're going out causing trouble, then girl, this one might not be for you. She only helping the defense. He only helps in the defense. Come on, Queen. Yes. Behind the angelic power is a wall of adobe. A wall of what? Adobo. A wall of adobe and brick. Or adobe. One of the earliest building construction materials in global history, symbolic of methodical discipline behind the power. The strongest of protection and defense, and ensuring barrier to entry, okay, so that what does not belong in the landscape of the keeper's inner universe shall not enter. Per Agrippa, air corresponds with the Occidental or Western world, whereas Aleister Crowley further develops on Agrippa to note that it is the Americas and for directionality, the West. Thus, the angelic power here has taken on features of indigenous American cultures in its revelation to the keeper. Okay, so come on, Mayans. Why not? Incans, Aztecs, and everybody else. You got your Choctaw, your Cherokees, your girl, Blackfoot, Sioux, Navajo, or Dene. Who else? Girl, there's so many. Can I only name that many? Who am I forgetting? The Lakota, who might also be the Sioux. Anyway, um, these our peoples, these peoples. I mean, I got Native American in me, but anyway. Um, at the bottom right, in the foreground of the shield, yes, at the bottom right in the foreground of the shield is a Makau Hawitu. I don't know. A sword-like weapon from Mesoamerican civilizations consisting of sharpened obsidian blades. The angelic power is dressed as a shorn one from Aztec warrior culture, wearing golden armor that identifies the power's high rank. The headdress he wears indicates his priesthood, nobility, and prestige. The tattoos on his sword arm denote his victories. Like the figure in the Five of Swords and Six of Swords, the Queen of Swords is left handed. Interesting. Okay, that was a lot, but we got sort of power and authority of air. It keeps things from entering our inner world that shouldn't be in our inner world. Also tied to Mesoamerican stuff, which is interesting because today's the Mayan New Year. That's why. Um, excuse me. And we kind of sort of have this theme. Also, we're sort of in between two worlds, right? If you look at these as calendars, which you don't necessarily have to, but I'm fairly certain one of the Mayan calendars is a circle, or it's circular, right? And they were saying that it was the end of one calendar and the beginning of a new one, or one cycle and the beginning of a new cycle. And somebody was like, well, they're based on circles. Like a circle has no end. How does it end if it's a circle, if it's circular, right? The world may never know. But we have this Queen of Swords energy, which is actually a dude. So you learn something new every day. So whereas in a feminine way, the Queen of Swords, the typical Queen of Swords, is about sort of speaking your truth and being that girl that nobody wants to mess with because she will come for you in a blunt and brutal way. But when we put that into a male energy, what does that look like? Typically kind of sort of entitled and not that great, but on a more positive aspect, it's someone who refuses to, just like the Queen of Swords may refuse to fall into those sort of roles and norms and stereotypes. I feel like this one would at the same time, right? It's like, oh, if you're the man, then like you take control and you do this, or like be a man, like men don't cry, and like, you know, she should be doing this for you because you're the man, and this is men's work, that's women's work. If men do women's work, then they get like teased and mocked, aka teachers and nurses. And for the dudes who be like, well, dudes who are nurses and teachers, they get made fun of. Why aren't the feminists sort of doing? And it's like, dude, We talking about the same issue, number one, because the only reason why they're being made fun of is because they're doing work that's traditionally seen as women's work. And that's why they're being made fun of. So we're talking about the same issue here, my guy. Anyway, it ain't even necessarily about this. See, this is why I come over here for all this. You know, on my other channel, I just try to be like, oh, it's fine, whatever. But yeah, with this Queen of Swords, it protects us from things entering our world. Now, this energy in okay, work. Ooh, 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 ooh. Interesting. We got the mages, the magus, talking about all this gem. Oh my gosh! And then we got the Queen of Swords. We got this air energy coming out, talking about how important Gemini is right now. And then we got the Magician, which is Mercurial energy. So Gemini and Virgo, or just Mercury, because Mercury is its own thing outside of the signs. This is interesting. So we have the Nocturne, which is about this realm between realms, these worlds between worlds, where we're living in both simultaneously, and it's about making the smooth transition from one into the other, going into this Scarlet Shield energy, which is about sort of standing at our inner gates, excuse me, and preventing things from entering our inner world that don't necessarily belong there. Also, a power of intellection. So that's thinking, communicating, rationalizing, and stuff like that. Perceiving, in some ways, this sort of truth. Also, lots of indigenous imagery in this card in particular. And so it could be the case that, again, it's interesting that so interesting. It's interesting that this stands at the gate of our inner world because we know from history that the story of a lot of these Mesoamerican and Native American peoples was that, people came from Europe primarily to come and kind of mess stuff up, right? And that's how it ended. It ended with them messing stuff up. Maybe it didn't start that way. But at the same time, there are people from those tribes that still maintain their heritage to this day. Now, a bit of it may have been lost in the everything that happened historically, but their inner world, even though they went through something so life altering and just like on so many levels, it's like their inner world, that inner knowledge, that spirit within them still runs strong, it still runs pure for some, right? Especially for the ones who choose to keep that alive within themselves, right? And so, again, it's about living in this external world, but still having your own world within you, and how they don't necessarily always line up, but how we sort of play that balance between them. And then we have the magician here being what we create. I feel like, honestly, with this magician energy, and the serpents are intertwined on each other, so that, strengthens it. But I think it's time to expand the inner world into the outside so that it more accurately reflects and it's less of a balance, right? But that's effectively making the transition from one world into the next, right? Coming out of this in between point. And crown chakra, she's lit. I am, I don't know. I usually like when stuff start, I only mention it sometimes, but she's just like there, girl. Um, but it's about coming out of this transitional period in a way that we actually want to. Now the other side of my head is trying to start to light up. And again, that comes with standing firm in our mental sort of in ourselves. But what's interesting is this card isn't in reverse, but I almost wonder if there are certain things that have worked their way inside of us that we're not allowing to exit. Some things that are not of us that have found their way inside of us because of how we were raised, conditioned, what we were led to believe and think, and all kinds of this stuff, right? And it's like now, maybe in a lower aspect, because again, either you're going into the North Node world or the South Node world. Now, to cross from the South Node world into the North Node world, we had that sort of snake biting its own tail that was the medicine, right? The venom becomes the medicine. But it requires a certain amount of exposure to the self. in order to be healed of it. And it's like if you're more aligned to that South Node world, then there may be some things that have worked its way inside of you that you've integrated into who you are, and you won't allow this energy to come in and to cut it out. You won't allow anything to really sort of get you to question what it is that you've been sort of trained and led to believe. And it's a continual process because it's a continual revealing and unraveling, right? And sometimes it's the case that, let's say, I always use the twos. So let's say we're doing 2 times 2, and every time we've done 2 times 2, let's say 2 squared. Let's say we're doing 2 squared, right? And every time we've learned 2 squared in the past, we've done 2 times or 2 plus 2. And 2 squared isn't 2 plus 2. 2 squared is 2 times 2, right? And so it's like we always get the same answer. And so it isn't necessarily the answer that's wrong, but it's the approach to that answer that could use some adjustment, right? That's kind of sort of what I'm getting here. I mean, there's a few things that I'm getting here, honestly. Can't believe it's already been half an hour. Time flies when you're on these things. Um, but I'm gonna do one more because I don't know. I won't. I'm gonna shut it down after this. I'm not gonna push it because then I feel like I'd have to timestamp and do all kinds of stuff. So, but I do want to do one more. We'll see. I probably won't. I need to just shut it down. Um, but yeah, in the South Node, it's about like maybe not letting stuff go because it's become a part of our programming. It's become something that we rely on for some reason. It's like there are parts of the brain that have atrophied, and okay, that's complete. No, we don't need to go on that. There are parts of the brain that have atrophied, and because they've atrophied because they weren't being used, it's like things that we weren't quite thinking of, and for things that we areas that we weren't thinking for ourselves in, that we allowed the dominant programming to think for us in, right? Especially when it comes to, for some people, when it comes to issues of like race and maybe even gender, right? Talking about gender norms with that Queen of Swords energy, with that Scarlet Shield energy, when it comes to race, when it comes to other things, education and stuff like that. Like I had jury duty once, and then they literally called me back 2 years later, like to the day. Like y'all really want me on here, and like little did I know all this like Libra in my chart, girl. I actually enjoyed jury duty. I only sat on one case, but it was so interesting to me. First of all, because of how somebody was just going to like straight up lie to try to get somebody in trouble. I was like, girl, if what you were saying is true, then this would have played out in a different way. And we all know that. Secondly, it was interesting because this girl that I went to high school with, and I went to middle school with her, we were actually friends at one point. And it's also interesting because when like all the Trayvon Martin stuff happened and how one of the witnesses in there was kind of sort of discredited and treated for how she spoke. There was this girl I went to school with who I thought was cool. We just kind of sort of fell out of contact. Now I don't even know if I want to know her. But there was this black dude, this African American male, who gave his sort of testimony. And she literally said to the panel of jurors, which I was a part of, maybe the only black male, maybe the only black person. Was I the only black person in there? I mean, it wouldn't be the first time I was the only black person in a space. Anyway, but she was like, he didn't speak proper English, so I don't believe anything that he said. And I said, like, that literally blew my mind. It blew my mind that that is number one, that it's a thought pattern that someone would actually have. Number two, that it was someone that I knew at one point that I considered a friend. And number three, that like it just like she said it in a way that like seemed to be valid. This person didn't speak proper English, so I don't believe anything they said. Like, what kind of conditioning and programming is that? And I'm just like, of course, in the moment, I didn't say anything, but it really like blew my mind. Because I remember, again, like there was one of the girls who testified in the Trayvon Martin case, and people said like a similar thing about her, about how she spoke. And because she spoke in a certain way, that there was no validity in what she said. It blew my mind. But again, that's that there are parts of our brain that have atrophied, because we just accept whatever is sort of like instilled into us. And so we come into these moments where maybe your crown is waking up, for example, but maybe not. But we come into these moments where we're starting to think in areas that we've never thought in before. We're starting to question things that we just blindly accepted before. And so it requires and entails a certain amount of expansion. But again, it's like if your brain is atrophied, if your default programming kicks in, then it's like there's no time for you to actually interject the thought. Because as soon as you're encountered with the situation, the programming in your brain switches on, and boom, you already arrive at the conclusion, not even knowing like how you got there. Right? That's the 2 plus 2 for 2 squared. When 2 squared is 2 times 2. Two to the third power, 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2. Right? But if you like 2 plus 2 plus 2, that's not gonna work. But 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 will work. But 2 to the 4 is 32, girl. Or is that 16? 2 2 is 4. 2 3 is 8. 2 4 is 16. 2 5 is 32. 2 6 is 64. Right? Yeah. Yeah, it's 16. I should just know that off the top of my head, but I go 2 4 6 8. 2 4 6 8. I go 2 4 8 16. 16. Here I am trying to talk about other people's math skills, girl, and I'm supposed to be an engineer. Anyway, ways, I got there. 3 3 is 27. 5 3 is 125. Right? There are certain ones that I just remember because I've had to do them so much, and then other ones where I kind of got to go through it. Right? It's like 5 25, 125. Is it 6 7? No, girl, we ain't even gonna go there. What is 125 times 5? That's 500 plus 125. 625. Is that right? No. Hey Siri, what is 5 to the fourth power?
5 raised to the fourth power is 625.
625. Like 625 came to my mind, and I was like, wait, I feel like it should be like a 50 or a 75 for some reason. I'm like, why would it be 50 or 75? Anyway, that's all besides the point. We come to these moments where default programming kicks in because it's been instilled in us. And if we don't address that, then we're going to be stuck in that South Node world, right? But and then that's the transition. That's why so much is kind of sort of shaking, because the collective, under sort of whatever rigmarole control schemes were sort of set up, our brains and our hearts had atrophied when it came to certain situations. But now it's coming online, neurons are firing, the brain is remolding itself because the brain is like plastic. And so the more you use something, you'll start to develop neural shortcuts. You'll start to develop shortcuts. The brain develops shortcuts. And that's why sometimes it's like, if you look at something, even if the words are jumbled up, your brain will kind of sort of like fill in the gaps. Anyway, neuroplasticity is a thing. Muscle memory is also a thing, but I think that's also related to neuroplasticity, because I think the basis of neuroplasticity is when the brain goes through a repeated pattern, it develops shortcuts to get to the answer faster, right? That's why I can think, 5 squared, 25, 5 cubed, 125. I don't even have to do the 5 times 5 times 5 in my head, because my brain has it's molded itself to just give me the answer, right? And again, those are things that we have to question. And then coming into this magician energy, the magus, the magus, we're going to read it first. And I think I'm going to I Ching around the 2 of orbs and the magician, because that's the first and the last card I pulled. And then I'm going to end this. I do want to do another so bad, but I won't. Maybe I'll do one for me. Maybe not. Maybe I'll just go to sleep. All right. Let's see. Let's get to this magus. The magus. Key number 1, the magus. This is the first septenary. Key number 1. So the attribute manifested here is mastery and focus. Focus and mastery. The theosophical septenary is self. The Saint Germain key is the magus or the magus. The path on spirit's journey is divinity in man. Interesting. The Sefer Yetzirah, I don't know how to pronounce that. Sefer Yetzirah is life versus death. A double-headed ouroboros forms a double limniscate knot, inscribed upon its scales, as above, so below. At the four corners within the reach of the magus are the four alchemical symbols. Top left, Mercury for air, the quality of enforcement, to know. Top right, water for water, the quality of fluidity, to keep silent. Bottom left, salt for earth, the quality of fruition, to do. Bottom right, sulfur for fire, the quality of synergy, to dare. To dare, to do, to know, and to be silent. Of the four symbols, only Mercury touches the serpent. Surrounding, only Mercury touches the serpent for air, and then we got this air card coming out to assist us with this Mercury touching the serpent because the air is the closest element to the pinnacle, I guess, because thoughts become things. It's one of the governing things down here where it probably should be the heart, honestly it should probably be the heart, but aka water, but it's about air. So surrounding the ouroboros are vines upon which 15 white lilies and 3 mystic roses bloom. 15 is the sum of the numbers in the Loshu magic square, a basic periodic table for the magician and the alchemist, invoking the 4 archangels from the Empyrean court. Oh, wait, skip the line. And the alchemist. 3 calls to mind the Holy Trinity. Note that the magic squares for invoking the 4 archangels from the Empyrean courts all add up to the sum 15. The 3 mystic roses are the tria prima. The coiled serpent here is reminiscent of the serpent coiled around the cosmic egg in key 0, the initiate. Here, that serpent has begun to form itself into an intelligent design. The archetype of the magus, is also the shapeshifter. The magus is the touchdown point of divinity in man, when the divine unconscious will becomes the conscious personal will. The card is emblematic of the powers of the spirit, as above, so below. Worldly knowledge is psychic knowledge. What you master inside of you, you will also master beyond you. Successfully working through the lessons and the trials of Key 1 will endow you with a gift from the magus, one of technical mastery over the 4 fundamental elements of the universe, actual immeasurable development of a key ability in you. Here, the initiate pledges reverence to wisdom, will, the word, and the logos. Key 1's message in the beginning, the magus must speak the truth. The magus must speak the truth. Ooh, interesting. I took pains deliberating between the title The Magus and The Alchemist, which I believe is now reflected in the imagery on the card. Instead of the mere iconic imagery of the wand, chalice, sword, and pentacle on a working table, I've decided to represent the same meaning with the 4 alchemical symbols for the 4 elements. So that's interesting for a reason. It's something about intelligent design of oneself, something about divine unconscious will coming down into personal will, something about that being sort of the bridge point of our divinity. And so honestly, the way across this, we may be only we may only we may only be we may be only we may be only be able to cross between these worlds with a higher divine mind, right? And a higher divine mind can mean anything. Not anything, but it could be a few things. So now we're gonna get into the I Ching. So yeah, with the magician, I feel like that's the ability to make it happen, to cross into that, and what it kind of sort of partially what awaits us on the other side, right? If we can successfully and smoothly navigate this transition, imagine the it's kind of sort of like you get a gift, but it's kind of sort of like it's just part of the whatever, right? It's like you just naturally learn how to do it, right? It's like if I put you in some water and I make you like, if I put you in a body of water and you make it to shore, by the time you get to the shore, you're probably going to learn how to swim if you didn't already know how to swim, right? And so it's like learning to swim was a part of making it to shore because there was nothing else that you could do in that situation besides swim. So the fact that you swim better, it's kind of sort of like, it's not an unintended consequence, but it's a necessary, like, it's just something that you pick up in the transition. And I feel like there are going to be things that we just pick up in the transition because it was necessary. It helped us get to wherever we're going. So let's see. Oh, well, this will be interesting. So what we got is Double Mountain. Double Mountain. I don't know if I've ever read Double Mountain before. Ooh, Double Mountain is number 52. A Quiet Heart. Ooh, I don't know if I've ever read this before. A Quiet Heart. That sounds interesting. Sounds like what I've not done, but that's fine. Quiet Heart. So, listen to the wind, quiet heart, and in action. This is Gen. Quiet your heart and be calm. Remember that even stillness can be a form of movement. The sage contemplates the situation in stillness. It is natural for the heart to fluctuate and a mind to flutter, but exercise restraint and keep confined to a fixed position. It's interesting because this would be traditionally fixed air Aquarian energy. Psych! Girl, this is Libran. That's Cardinal. Why am I treating that like it's a king? Maybe because it's a dude. It confused me. Let me stop. Exercise restraint and keep confined. Okay, well, to a fixed position. Well, it's a shield. That's why. Because, like, it's a shield, right? It's fixed. It doesn't, like, that shield ain't gonna go nowhere. It stands at the threshold and it doesn't abandon its post. So, again, it's natural for the heart to fluctuate and a mind to flutter, but exercise restraint and keep confined to a fixed position. That is how you will hear the answer to your inquiry. The wind will carry an important omen to you. And Mercury, air, was the only one touching the ouroboros. It was the only one touching the snake. So there's something about air and intellection and the mind. Silence is the way to sell mastery. Think before. Why do I feel like I'm being read all of a sudden? Fine, whatever. I'll continue to read. Silence is the way to self mastery. Self mastery. Why did I say sell mastery? Silence is the way to self mastery. Yeah, I did that. Think before you speak, not the other way around. What's more, silence is the way to prevailing in your endeavor. Present inaction paves the way for future gains. So I'll read that one more time. Quiet your heart and be calm. Remember that even stillness can be a form of movement. The sage contemplates the situation in stillness. It is natural for the heart to fluctuate and a mind to flutter, but exercise restraint and keep confined to a fixed position. That is how you will hear the answer to your inquiry. The wind will carry an important omen to you. Listen to the wind. Silence is the way to self mastery. Think before you speak, not the other way around. What's more, silence is the way to prevailing in your endeavor. Present inaction paves the way for future gains. So, what this is telling me, what that is sort of clarifying for me, is almost the necessity of this point of transition. And that's another thing that this will help us. I think I talked about this when it's coming from the South Node point of view, as far as keeping these things inside of us that have worked their way into us and not questioning them. But in the North Node sense, oh, I tried to do too much explaining and I lost it. It's about, again, and I've talked about it before, it's about not needing your external reality to immediately affirm and confirm everything that you're doing on the spiritual and on the mental, right? Because we're in this period of transition. We're in this moment, this world between worlds, while humanity and the collective decides what it wants to do with itself and how it wants to proceed and move forward, right? Now, in a certain sense, the outcome has already been decided, right? But the speed at which we come into it, or the moment at which it all unfurls, is kind of sort of unknown because there's so much choice that affects it, right? It's like when you put in a pre-order or you put money down on something, but you still got to go and pick it up, right? And depending on how much you paid, it already ensures that it's yours. So if you only paid $5 and it's $50 and it's been a month and you still didn't go and pick it up, then they may sell that to somebody else and just refund you your $5. But if you pay it in full, then it's like it's yours, right? Now they can still refund you the entirety of that, depending on how long you don't pick it up. But it's like if you've already paid for it, then they've already gotten all the money that they're going to get from it, right? It's not like they have an incentive to sell it to somebody else because you haven't paid it in full. So it's already paid in full. For you, I feel like I'm losing myself in the metaphor. We've already put the money down. Collectively, we're paying it in full, right? So it's like, let's say there's this multiplex. So there's us pre ordering our thing, and other people need to pre order their things. And depending on how many people pay off their pre orders in full, that will determine how much the store sort of gets in that initial shipment. Perfect. So if there are like not that many pre-orders or if there isn't like that much of an interest, then the store may not get a huge sort of like initial order of a large quantity because there's no demand for it. Now, if depending on what the pre-orders are, it could be the case, and it's happened before. It could be the case that they get more pre-orders than they have units, right? It's like they've exceeded their capacity or exceeded what would come in for them. So the earlier you place the pre-order, the better. Or let's say if you have a pre-order paid in full, then you'll be given priority over someone who has like a partial pre-order. It probably goes first come first serve, maybe. Um, or they may be like, if you can't pay this in full today, then we're gonna give it to someone who already paid for it in full, right? It's like the terms and the conditions sort of like they vary depending on the situation, but one does have influence over the other. And again, all I want to say is, and I've been saying it quite a bit, don't have your external reality be the only metric or even that heavy of a metric for your spiritual growth or for you being on path. Because we're in this time between times. We're in this moment between moments where you could have done everything that you need to do in order to ensure your place and ensure your spot, but it's also about the collective, right? And so while we're waiting on the collective consciousness to like breach the threshold, we're in this moment of sort of waiting. And it's almost like consciousness had to come up here to the top of the south node. 1 second. Is that my mom? Is this about some food? Girl, 1 second, y'all. This seems like it may be time sensitive. So it's like we've reached the south node. We've reached the top of the south node in consciousness collectively. And before we fully enter into the north node in consciousness, we have to cross that gap. And we're kind of sort of in this gap period. And in this gap period, it's like that's where things get interesting, right? That's where we all have our own sort of tests and tasks and things of that sort, of that nature. And yeah. I do want to see what's on the bottom of these and then I'll wrap it up. But yeah, so, while we're in this period of transition, stay strong If there are doubts and worries and fears that are trying to approach you from the outside, stand with spirit, stand with you, and don't allow that in. Um, it's like when we're not, even when we are more conscious, sometimes we test each other, right? When you're not as aware and conscious of your own self and actions, and when you're not like aligned, when you're lesser aligned with yourself, it's easier for another sort of thing to come out of you, right? Like you may do something or say something that you don't mean in the moment. You may be a little extra harsh or whatever, and you could be like, you could be used by lower conscious entities, energies, or whatever, right? To try to hold somebody back in that self known place. Um, and that can be anybody. Anyone in your circle can kind of sort of come in and try to um, disencourage you, discourage you. Yeah, discourage you. Anybody can come in and try to discourage you. And that's when you have to have that, like, that power and authority of air, your own air, right? Be like, I know where I'm going, and that's it. That's it for me. Bottom of the deck, we have. It's interesting that I start talking about this now. Bottom of the deck is the corruptor, the seven of chalices. In this deck, all seven chalices are bad. You don't want any of these cups. They're all tied to one of the seven deadly sins. I hope the bottom of this one is the tower. Nope, it's the chariot, because the tower has the axe of Shiva, which cuts out corruption. And it's interesting because I watched Water Baby Tarot's crystal video, crystal and channel, whatever, for water signs, and the Shiva Lingam came out for Pisces, and Shiva Lingam it kind of sort of picks up on, or a part of what it does dwells within the ability of Shiva to dispel illusion and stuff like that. But we have the chariot. So again, we definitely. It's interesting that this is the bottom of the deck, and maybe that's why the advice was not to move right now. Over here, King of Swords, the Archangel Commander. Apparently, the King and the Queen of Swords want to be seen together lately. Maybe they've worked through whatever they was going through. Now they don't mind coming out together. Okay, all right, I see y'all. So the bottom of the deck over here is the King of Swords, which is that Aquarian fixed energy. So again, it's almost like now is not a time of. It's not that it's not a time of action. Now is not the time to whatever action you take right now, you want to make sure it's aligned with you and with the path with where you want to go. And it's like, well, anytime I make an action, that's the case. But because it's like, I've personally been feeling like something is going to happen that's going to cause me to modify or change or adapt, right? It's like at whenever, maybe tomorrow. It's been 72 hours almost. It's been like 48 hours, 48 and some change hours. So I'm excited to come up on the 72nd hour. But anyway, so yes, the modification. Um, it's like if you're coming, it's like there's gonna be something's gonna happen that's gonna not like I don't think my life is gonna fall apart, but it's like something is gonna come into my realm of knowledge that is going to change the way I project myself into the future for the better. And I don't know what it is yet. And so there isn't really anything that I can do to prepare for it. There isn't really any action that I can take besides keeping myself open to whatever happens and preparing as best I can in any way that I can, right? To be ready for whatever the unexpected is, right? It's like when people say expect the unexpected, and it's like, well, it's unexpected. How do I know what to expect? There are things that you can do to make sure that you're ready within yourself. And those things are probably tied to growth, healing, whatever that you were kind of sort of already on track, on cue to do anyway, right? It's like paying off that pre-order. There are things that must be done in order to get to the end goal. It ain't like the portal is going to open up tomorrow and then all of a sudden all of the things that you weren't doing that you already knew that you were supposed to be doing just magically get done. Maybe that is the case. Maybe it will be. I ain't gonna say it ain't. But in my mind, to me, excuse me, it's like that's asking for you to do a lot on the spot, especially if you weren't doing anything before. Um, and I ain't necessarily trying to go there. But anyway, either way, something is gonna happen that's gonna change my plan for the better. And so now is not the time for me to be making any grand decisions because it's probably going to be changing here pretty soon anyway. And I want to allow myself the space to accept whatever it is coming for me. Right. And that's another thing about, oh, ooh, okay, thank you. That's this energy. Oh, yeah, no, I'm curious. Okay, so behind this, work behind this. Okay, we'll stop there. Oh, well, okay, well, I only got a certain amount of hands or fingers. Okay, we'll stop here. So, under all of these cards, we have the Knight of Swords and the Devil, which is that Dark Knight energy. But this is a Dark Knight that gets darker when you try to escape it for whatever reason. It's like when you try to break free of this, then the chains themselves, it's like quicksand. The more you try to break free, the harder it gets for you to get out. But it's not for you to give up and to accept things as they are. It's for you to work harder to break those chains to come into everything that you want. And again, that's one of the reasons why we shouldn't wait until these portals, right? To begin to do some of this stuff, whatever we can be doing. And I've talked about it on this channel before. Whatever we can be doing, we should always be doing so that when the portal comes, we get more of what we want instead of only what we need, right? It's like a wasted opportunity. If and again, it's not a wasted opportunity because it is what it is, but there's more that we are sort of capable of receiving when we do the stuff within our power to do it the first time, right? We don't need spirit to do it. And since spirit isn't doing that for us because we've already done it for ourselves, then spirit can give us more of what we want. Anyway, that's the Nine of Swords and the Devil energy. Now we have the Ten of Pentacles, the Nine into the Ten, and this Seeker energy. And that's what we're going for. We're going for this abundance. We're going for the stability. We're going for this fulfillment. We're going for, it's like with that Ten of Pentacles, it's almost like what happens to a blessing delayed. It's like it increases in the spirit, right? But since it's increasing in the spirit, not only do we have to be ready to receive what we initially asked for, we also have to be ready to receive all of the growth that it's accumulated over time. So maybe that's why sometimes it feels like we're being asked to do more in order to receive what was already happening. But it's because while this has been sitting in the spirit for us to claim, other things have been happening in our lives and we're wanting more. We're continuously and constantly wanting more. And so the blessing is also increasing on the other side. But if you haven't been moving, the gap increases at the same time, right? That's another reason why continuous and constant effort, it just pays off in the long run. Okay. So we go from the Ten of Pentacles and the Seeker, someone seeking that Ten of Pentacles and that. And then we come into this energy. What is it? The Fool and the Four of Wands. Actually, and like here we have the snake that and the magician on the front side of this deck has wrapped around itself and formed itself into that intelligent design, right? That means like the path is forming itself to this Four of Wands moment as long as we continue to show up and do everything that we're doing. And then that comes into this energy, which is the Star and the Three of Swords. It's the release of all that kept us in that South Node world. Right now, you can see why I had to keep picking these up. I was like, oh. And then again, we end with this in the Chariot. And I picked this up because, again, like I said, if I needed my physical reality to affirm everything that I know is coming for me, I would be acting in all kind of foolish ways. If I didn't fully believe, if I needed it to be proven to me, I'd be acting in all kinds of foolish ways. If I didn't trust and know that regardless of what I do in this interim time, I'm going to be coming upon this modification and my whole plan is going to change anyway, and that it may actually be more beneficial for me to be in the space that I'm in now and to move towards that than to try to pursue something else and then move towards that. I could be doing myself a disservice and putting myself at a disadvantage by trying to make something happen in this time where inaction is the best course of action, right? Because I have the trust and the faith that I know, and because I know that this is coming for me, like, do I want to move? Of course. Like, yes, 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 yes. I do. I do so much. But am I going to allow that impatience to impede upon the better and the best that's coming for me? No. And that's why I feel like with the Seven of Cups and with this Chariot, this is the space of creating options or taking lesser options instead of waiting for the best that is to come. And look, we got the Three of Swords and the Star card. We got sort of rifts being mended, paths and opportunities that were previously inaccessible, and maybe unacceptable, being healed and being set right because of the work that happens in these quiet moments without the distraction from all this movement and corruption and chaos, right? Embarking upon this brand new path and finally embarking upon this new path in a way that gets us down the road because in these silent moments we were doing the work and receiving the healing from this star. And again, getting closer and closer to that 10 of Pentacles that we've been seeking this whole time. But this energy will derail all of that. It has the potential to derail all of that, right? And that's the importance of the Queen of Swords, that that scarlet shield, power and authority of air, that guardian that stands at the gate of our internal world, and the internal world being reflective of those higher potentialities, that North Node world we have the ability to come into. It's almost like it's colliding and impacting, but instead of being okay, nice. So again, it's about the harmonious transition, right? And the harmoniousness of this transition is related to how open we are and how we show up and how we handle the things as they come, and other things. I kind of lost it. But a lesser harmonious transition, we have these two planets coming into each other and just like smashing into each other and breaking into bits. And it's like a tower moment beyond all tower moments. And after millions or maybe even billions or trillions of years, this dust that's created from the collision of these two planets, sort of like through gravity and other things, it resolidifies into a new planet that is a combination of both, right? That's the more sort of the way of more resistance. But in lesser resistance, when we allow this thing to be out of phase with this thing, because they're out of phase right now. They like it's a different reality. It's a different take. It's something completely different than where we are now. But when we allow them to be out of phase, instead of it doing this and then like all this pressure and it breaks apart, and then over, like I said, millions and billions of years with gravity, it kind of sort of brings them together and they recoalesce into this new world. But when we allow them to be out of phase, then this happens where they sort of like overlap, right? And they do that. It's like they pass through each other, like two bodies of fluid. They flow past each other, and in that crossover moment, we hop over into this new timeline, right? And so, at least how I envision it and how I process it, it isn't necessarily always leaping, right? It's not about exiting one and coming into the other, but it's about systematically placing ourselves in the space to process the old stuff, change the way we make decisions and why we make the decisions and how we move and when we move and what we're led by, so that through these series of decisions, it's like I could go this way or that way, right? It's like with this, oh girl, I done left all these cards out. 1 second. One moment, please. One moment, please. I can't even remember how these were. I think this was here, and then this was here. No, it was this. Yeah, because it went from the 9 into the 10, and then the 4, and then the 3. And so, since it went from the 9 into the 10, we were seeking the 10, taking the foolish leap for the 4, and healing at the 3. Okay. So, here it's like these are 7 different challenges that 7 blockages, 7 challenges, 7 things to overcome in order to get into the highest vibration of whatever. And the more challenge we overcome, the better the world we enter into. But it's like these are 7 different diverging paths of, do we take the cup or do we not take the cup? Some folks will pick up all 7 of these cups thinking that, oh, that would look good in my 3D, that would look good in my 3D, that would look good in my 3D. And another thing that came to me since way back, thanks to my friend Emily in a reading that I did for her in like January, and just like talking and so many things. Honestly, it came to be and then it was affirmed there, and then it's been reaffirmed in other ways. It's been kind of sort of quiet lately, honestly. But the things that we create space for, the things that we're cleaning up and clearing out as these tower moments fall and fall and fall, when we clear the debris, we leave those spaces empty until what's supposed to be in that space comes. Because if we're seeking all of this stuff because we think our experience should look like whatever it's supposed to look like, we're putting things in the way in place of what's coming in. So, like I said, the denser we make it, if I go from this to like this, like that's where we get that collision. But if I allow it to stay like this, then we come into that peaceful transition. And then it continue, like imagine my hands just continue going through each other like that, right? And it's like at one point we kind of sort of shift onto this other one, like instead of going on this palm, I guess this is heading south and this is heading north, right? And so we're starting on the south heading one, and when we come into this moment where we can seamlessly cross over, then it's like we go, now we're on this palm and we keep pushing upward, right? That's that seamless transition. We're at this point and then it continues on beyond, and this one keeps going south, right? That, at least how I perceive it, is timeline shifting and timeline jumping. But the more we sort of close in these gaps that need to be held open, it prevents us from making that seamless transition. And again, this is all about the harmonious transition. It's the nocturne. The nocturne could be something like a lullaby. It'd be a weird lullaby. I think I looked up nocturne once, and it's like, it's a song that reminds you of a night sky where there's no light pollution and it's full of stars and it's brimming with endless potentiality and possibility in this void space, right? It gives you that feeling of like anything and everything is possible. And even when it's a star-filled sky, the sky is primarily night, right? There's more darkness than there are specks of light in the sky. Or if not, it would like look like it's daytime in the middle of the night, right? But it's about where we train our eye and what we focus on and what we choose to see. Like we could focus on the darkness surrounding the stars, or we could look at the stars, right? And I feel like there are certain things that I'm just like, I'm still quite missing, or I'm not hitting, or I'm not saying, or whatever. But I feel like I've talked enough to make my point. Uh, but again, that's another reason why it's so important, especially in transitional times like this, to not need your physical to affirm everything. And that is going to be one of the spaces where devil energy comes in, and it'll tempt us away from what we're actually going for, right? The devil was that south node, and strength, the force, is the north node. So again, that's us having the strength to, even if the devil comes with something super tempting, to be like, you know what, that's a really good offer. It has a lot of aspects of what I want right now, and it's in the area that I want to be in right now. But the more I look into this, it was initially exciting because again, it's playing on this. I want to move. For me personally, it was a job, and again, it wasn't like anything solid, but it was like a job in an area that I want to be in right now, and it wasn't in the company, or it wasn't in the field. It wasn't on the demand side of the field I want to be in. It was on the supply side of the field that I want to be in, which I can still draw from. And I was like, wow, this is like really interesting. It's something I never heard of. It's an international company, so it also comes with opportunities to travel internationally, which I am very much about. But again, it had a lot of things that hit for me, but something about it still just that it's like this isn't it. And for me, it's interesting. It's not something that I consciously think about because it's not the space that I'm in. But if I go to a previous version of Patrick, if I go to a Two of Pentacles version of Patrick that was in the in between my old mindset and the mindset that I'm in now, there would have been a question of like, am I self sabotaging? Like, am I passing up something that's actually good for me because I think it isn't, right? Am I doing this in my own mind where this is actually for me, or am I right and this isn't for me and there's something better, right? In a more transitional period, that would have been something that I struggled and went back and forth with. Go back to a few months ago, right? When I was talking about school. But since I navigated that, and I'm not going to say I navigated it successfully, or I didn't navigate it successfully, but because that's how I handled that decision when I came to that decision, now I have reinforced that, or I have reached the point that I have reached now, right? But it's because I did it how I did it then. Because I took that moment as the opportunity that it presented itself to be, now that I've come across so many opportunities. And it ain't like I'm necessarily getting opportunities out of the wazoo, but I have noticed that when I'm in this mode of moving, the more I want to move, all of a sudden, all these opportunities will start popping up. They'll start popping up. And again, if I get swept in how much I want to move right now, if I get swept up in how much I don't want to be here, if I get swept up in how much I want to be making money, if I get swept up in how much I want my life to begin and really begin, like I'm ready to like really live. But if I get swept up in all that, and if I don't include my spirit in that conversation, then again, that's that Seven of Cups, getting lost in the options and moving on something when right now isn't the time to move, right? And that's literally been this year for me. That's why I'm able to be in the mindset that I'm in right now. That's why I'm able to handle everything as it comes and not be washed under it or taken under or need to separate myself in order to maintain some kind of sanity. Because when I've had all of these opportunities, I've risen to each occasion, and I've gone through this multiple times. And now at this point, like I said, I know it's not for me. I don't have to be in this space of like, am I self sabotaging? Am I like, I went through that phase and I navigated myself out of it. So I don't have to keep coming upon those questions, right? And because I did it before, it solidifies my trust now. And because of everything happening, it builds upon itself when you show up, right? And so I don't have these moments that sort of really take me out of phase because I don't know what's happening or I'm confused or whatever. Like, and for me in my own personal journey, that's one of the things that I've just been doing. I've been showing up and I've been analyzing every time, and I've been having these conversations with myself, and I've been asking myself again, it's like, because my old shadow would self sabotage, and my old shadow would not take these opportunities because I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel good enough. I was nervous about going somewhere and being on my own, right? There were all of these I can't, and what about thoughts that would keep me from doing stuff. And so I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't take those opportunities. And now it's like I'm it looks on the surface like I'm doing the same thing. I'm not taking these opportunities that were amazing. But again, the motivation and the reason behind it is different. I'm not self-sabotaging now. Now, and it's interesting because now me self-sabotaging would be me taking these opportunities that I know aren't for me. But that's how things change. And in my mind, again, when I talk about the mask or no mask thing, when it's like the dark is like wear a mask because if you don't, you'll die. And so, in order for people to not buy into that, they take the stance of not wearing the mask. But at some point, the rules of the game change. And when you're always in the game, when you're always like in that mode, you'll know when the rules change because things within you change. The perspective changes, things shift and change. And when you're in the moment of flowing with it, it's just like how, if we go back to history, people love to be like Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, but when Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, being a Republican meant something very different than what being a Republican means today. At some point, things shifted, things changed. But if you get locked into the label, if you get locked into the what it looks like, then again, it keeps you from changing with it. And so if this is you like fixed, right? When things changed, right? When this becomes this and when this becomes that, you're doing the same thing, but now all of a sudden you find yourself on a different side of the polarity because you're too rigid, you're too fixed. You don't allow yourself to continuously flow with it. Everything changes, everything is in motion, everything is fluid. There are seasons and cycles and periods and pauses to everything. And that's why I continuously evaluate and reevaluate and I question things myself, right? And I continue to observe and I continue to flow. And now, because of what happened leading up to this year, again, in 2019, January, I was very, very, very intentional about everything. And so, because of what happened at the end of last year, I was put in this space. At first, I didn't like it, right? And it was around December, and that's why I'm so glad for literally everything that happened because honestly, everything ended up serving me for the good. Even what looked like a setback ended up serving me, and it blows my mind because some of these setbacks were so huge when I first approached them, but I wasn't in the mindset of allowing these setbacks to be setbacks, right? So they were more annoyances than anything else. And some of it was like miscommunication, or like if I would have been more observant, I would have caught this when it was happening. But in the moment, it served me. So I just went with it. I was like, okay, this is good work. It must be that. It must be this. It must be this other thing, even though logically it probably doesn't make sense. Right. When I looked at it, I was like, something about this ain't adding up. But it's what I want. So work, sis. The universe works in mysterious ways, and the Lord is always blessing me. And then come to find out some mistakes were made and like some of that stuff you wasn't supposed to have, girl. So now we come to what was it? COLLECT. We've come to collect, save a buck or two or three, right? Call collect back in the day. COLLECT, save a buck or two or three. I thought I was saving tens until they came to collect. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like, how did this happen? Like, I knew it. I knew it. On one hand, it was too good to be true. And I knew that it looked funny because I did actually look into it and it looked different than what it was supposed to look like, but it's what I needed at that time. It literally helped me accommodate some of the needs that I had in the moment. So again, I didn't question it. But by when it was all sort of settled, I thought it was a setback. I was like, oh my gosh. But I just got water all up down the bear. It's fine. Um, but when everything happened, because of those setbacks, It's like it went from a blessing into a setback, and then it turned back into a blessing. And again, it's like even when it happened, I was just like, wow, like I really should have, like I knew something about it looked a little off. I really should have done whatever. But the more life happened, excuse me, when everything went crazy, when everything went crazy and started falling apart, that's when I found, interestingly enough, when everything started to fall apart, that's where things started to come into place for me. And it was like, again, the things that I thought were setbacks, the how am I gonna like take care of this now? I'm not gonna think about it, I'm not gonna worry about it. And again, this I'm not going to think about it and I'm not going to worry about it came from a place of knowing that I would be taken care of and the means would provide for themselves, rather than the previous I'm not going to think about it, I'm not going to worry about it, dismissive, run away, like just like it's too much, right? And again, like for me, there have been so many times when it's like I make a decision now from this space, I approach it from this space instead of from this space, right? And so in the middle they overlap and they look the same, but the path to get there is completely different. But again, on the surface, it looks the same. And that was one of the things for me. It's been, like I said, it's been reaffirming and reaffirming and building and building and building until where I am now, which is like why I can be in this fairly good position, even though things are kind of sort of crazy right now. And again, it's like I don't have to be disengaged from it in order to like be in this position. I don't have to be distanced, right? I don't have to be emotionally like unconnected. Like I can maintain all of my connections. I can be present. I can be upset. I can, issue these challenges. I can want better for us and I can want us to rise and I can hold all of these emotion. And at the end of the day, still be in a good place, still be in that higher vibration, still be in this higher mindset rather than giving into the despair, right? It's like I don't have to sacrifice my presence in order to get happiness or stability or be grounded or be centered, right? Because again, like I say again, to be fully grounded or to be fully centered, you should be able to go through something and not be pulled out of your eye, right? People use trees as a symbol of as a symbolism of being grounded, and it's like when that storm blows in, that tree is there and the tree may flow in the wind, right? But at the end of the day, the tree is still there. It bends and it bows with the wind when it needs to, because if it doesn't, it'll snap and it'll break. But it bends and it bows and it flows when it needs. And at the end of the day, when the storm is past, the tree is still there. That's being grounded. Being grounded isn't, oh, the storm is blowing in, bloop, the tree just disappeared into the 15th dimension, right? To escape the storm. It's like, no, girl, look at the tree, right? Sometimes you might think the tree is going to be pulled up from the root. But if the tree's got a strong root system, it can go all the way back and be blowing and have its branches all the way back in the wind. And when the storm is over, it comes right back up, girl. That's what she does. That's what we do. Hello. Do y'all know what my last name is? Maybe not, because I try not to put it out there. But if you know what my last name is, girl, the tree is in there. And it makes sense now. The tree is in there, right? It's almost like I was always supposed to like be here. Even my namesake. I actually looked at my name the other day because when I was on my legacy channel, somebody said what they named me. And I was like, wow, my name is just like Patrick. But then I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay, so like low key, Patrick is kind of sort of lit, right? It's the root for patricians, right? You have the plebeians and the patricians. It's like ruler. And then if you go into the old English, it's like paid and drink or something like that. And it can be like an unknown ruler, right? Someone who rises from the ashes, from the mists of obscurity and stakes his claim in this world. Like, girl, no, 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 excuse me, this isn't gonna work. This foolishness is not gonna work. We're gonna need to dial this down to an acceptable 11 instead of a 35,000. Let's dial this down to an 11. Okay. It's an awakening number. It's still above 10. I know that it needs to be beyond 10 in order for some people to get to where they need to be right now. But just because it needs to be above 10, don't mean we taking it to 20, girl. Let's bring it down to a sensible 11. It's still a 2. If the 2 is important for you, it's still duality and all this other kind of stuff, right? Like in measure. Anyway, girl, I'm talking about everything. I'm feeling good, apparently. This water got something in it. It's just me appreciating the space that I'm in because I've showed up for myself. I've done the work. And I'm not going to sit around and be like I still have compassion and sympathy for the people going through it because it's a journey for all of us. But I firsthand noticed personally in my life when I show up, things are easier. Like the dark nights aren't as dark. The tower moments don't shake as much. Like the towers don't shake and just like spontaneously catch fire like they used to, right? It's like when you on it, you get that, you be like, what's that noise? What's that noise? Is that the tornado siren outside? Is that the fire alarms going off? Okay, I hear it. I can, if it's a tornado, I can get to the basement of this tower while we take out the top floors. If it's a fire, I can completely evacuate while the whole building goes down, right? It doesn't hit you the same. And again, so like when everything fell apart, what I initially thought was a setback ended up coming to me and creating in some strange way, it ended up creating some temporary stability in what would have been otherwise, I don't even know. And again, because I was already following up on the things that I was doing before, because usually I procrastinate, right? Usually I procrastinate and I don't do it in the time, but I was like, you know what? Something is telling me to do this in this time right now. And so I did it. And then, girl, your girl's been real good, surprisingly, especially with everything that had happened before. Like, if y'all could have seen if I'm just gonna put my own tea out there. If y'all could have seen my financial life, every time that energy oracle card come out with financial constraints, I'm like, for now, right? But I ended up finding myself in a situation with my school last year when they ended up. So this is the fullity of the situation. Somehow I worked over the summer at my school last year, right? And I also had financial aid for the school year. And your girl was supposed to be getting some money back, okay? Some money to fix her laptop because she needed her laptop for school. And it wasn't like it was on the fritz and she needed to get it fixed, right? There were some other things that she needed to take care of, like school to pay for, right? Like there's a whole bunch of stuff I was going through that I wasn't necessarily talking about, and at the same time it wasn't necessarily worth talking about because like if you saw me and you saw my demeanor, like this is who I am even in my day to day. Sometimes I may get a little like, oh, I don't know, like I know it's gonna work out, but I'm still a little stressed. And then I call my girl Emily, and she put me on the straight and narrow. Now I haven't needed Emily to put me on the straight and narrow this year. That was more so like last year. But anyway, like this is me on camera and off camera. It's honestly more off camera than it is on camera. Like even on camera, it's kind of sort of dialed down a little bit. It's a little bit muted, which may be surprising for some folks. And it's not like I'm like this all the time, right? But if a situation comes to my attention and it deserves this just like kind of reaction, it gets one from me. I had a Sagittarius friend who dialed me down. She dialed me all the way down, so I don't go all extra no more. But so school was crazy because I guess I'll go into my whole story. And man, it's already been an hour and a half, but that's fine. I'll say cards at the beginning of the video. Um, so what had happened was I was an RA in the year of 2016 to 2017, and I lost my job because I didn't make grades. I was an amazing RA. I was the best in that building. Even the people who weren't on my floor loved me. All the residents were like, Patrick, we love you. You're so cool because whenever you handle a situation, you don't show up like, oh, like the power and the authority didn't go to your head like it does to some people, and you don't show up in these situations and basically treat us like children. Because I'm like, look, I know y'all only 18, some of y'all still 17, some of y'all little children and you're 16 in college. Congratulations. But like this is college. Like y'all aren't kids, and I'm not gonna treat y'all like y'all a kid. Like you're breaking the rules, you know you're breaking the rules. I'm doing my job, right? I'm not here to like put whatever in your face and be like, right, I'm just here to do my job, right? If I didn't have to enforce this stuff, some of this I wouldn't be enforcing. Honestly, everything that I had to enforce, I probably would be enforcing because there were some underage drinking, quiet hours violations. Like people are trying to sleep, bruh. Like people got class tomorrow. Some people got 7:30s. Be considerate. So I'm not gonna say I wouldn't enforce the things, but there were things that I had to do because it was my job, and I approached it like that. Right? I'm like, I'm cool. I'm just like, look, we heard the bottles clinking. We know y'all in here drinking. The quicker y'all do this, the quicker we can go about our day. And then people cooperate, right? It's not like that's just like I have this like nonchalant tone. And I actually care about people. Believe it or not, I actually care about people. And again, like I don't feel like it's my job to make someone else feel like a child. Right? Like we're all grown here. Right? Even if some of us are new to being grown, you're grown now. And I'm like, I'm not going to treat you like you're a kid or try to come in with that authority, whatever. And so that's one of the things like somebody would tell me, because apparently there was a hall wide group chat. And whenever anything happened in the hall, it was on that group chat. I was an RA in the building and there was some stuff I didn't even know about. And apparently, as soon as it went down, it's on that group chat. And one of my residents told me, and that's I asked all the other RAs. I was like, "Did y'all know that there was like a hall wide group chat?" And they were like, "What? No." I said, "Girl, one of my residents just told me about it." And maybe like I was supposed to be cool and not say anything, but it's not like I can get in that group chat and do whatever anyway. I'm just like, were y'all aware that this is a thing? And then like, oh, maybe this is how they knew about some other stuff. And what one of the things that they did in the group chat was they talked about the RAs and how they handled the situation. And that's what he told me. He was like, like things like that, it doesn't go unnoticed, right? And when you are an RA, it's not like someone's gonna be like, gee, wow, thanks for like busting me, right? Thanks for writing me up. But again, it's like it's the air that you approach it with. So anyway, I was an RA and I lost my job because I didn't have the grades. That was one of the years I was the most depressed in my life. That was literally one of the hardest years of my life because of my job. And I had first years. I had a lot of freshmen. Um, and so it's like they're getting used to classes, and the university I went to is hard. It's hard. A lot of people are the smartest in their school, and then they come to this school and it just it really tears at some people, because being the smartest and being smart is some of these people, it's their label, right? It's like, well, if I'm getting bad grades, then like who am I? Because smart is who I've always been. And some people actually like they go through whole crises, like identity crises, that like tower moments and dark nights, beyond tower moments and dark nights, and some of them go to really, really, really dark places. And as an RA, like that's one of the things that I have to help people navigate. Luckily for me, I didn't have anyone that was like extremely out of it. I did have one person who ended up leaving after his first semester because he didn't feel like anybody cared about him. And I was like, I care about you. What are you talking about? He was like, yeah, but you're my RA. I'm like, bruh, like just because I'm your RA doesn't mean I have to care about you. There are plenty of RAs that don't care about their residents, trust. And their residents feel like their RA doesn't care about them. And he was like, yeah, but you care about like everybody, so you don't count. I was like, well, I understood it at the same time. And again, I'm not going to ask anybody to stay in a place where they don't feel like accepted, right? I did do my best to like, check in, and like I talked to him. So he had somebody there. But anyway, there are a lot of things that go on. I gave so much to other people. I was already in a questionable spot myself, but to be an RA, I had to have grades to make it. And I was kind of sort of at the cusp, right? Not because I wasn't capable, but just because like it's like every other semester at school I was depressed and I failed all my classes. So then like it was every spring I failed classes, every fall I retook them, and that's one of the reasons why it took me so long, because mental health was back and forth. My vision was declining. My accommodations towards the end weren't making up for what I couldn't see, and I was dealing with that, which which influenced the mental back and forth. Um, and so, with me giving so much to other people and not really pouring back into myself, I couldn't keep up with it, and it was really dark for me. And honestly, it's like I'm kind of surprised that I was able to show up in the capacity that I did for my residents and for some people in the building and other RAs, and just like I'm surprised that like I had the capacity to show up the way that I did, because I didn't have much to give and I didn't have anything for myself. And then coming off of that, I went into a supervisor position over the summer. And so at the end of the semester, at the end of the second semester, I was a full time RA. I was doing part time supervisor training. By the end of the summer, that mess turned basically full time, because then we had to train all the other people. And so it's like, I'm like, and I had to pack to move out of my room. That's when my mom came. That's why I stopped talking to her for a minute, because I was working two jobs, mentally and emotionally so thin because I had stretched myself. And she came and she was giving me whatever. And I was like, you know what? I can't deal with this right now. If you can't be here to help, you can leave. You can go home. And she was like, what? She was taken aback. I was kind of sort of in that moment taken aback, because I was like, I can't believe I'm talking to my mama like this. But at the same time, what I don't need is her right now showing up in this way. I was like, you know what? I'll figure it out. You can just leave. I'll figure this out. And so, and then she was like, well, if that's you can go out there and you can unpack the truck and you can do all this. And I was like, no, because I still got to get this room packed. You can unpack the truck and you can go home, and I will figure this out, because I still got to get out of here. And so she helped me take whatever we had packed, and then she went home. And that night I called one of my buddies and he helped me move the rest. And I didn't talk to her for several months. That's the longest I've ever not talked to my mom. And it's weird because I'm such a mama's boy. I talk to her about everything. Like literally everything. Not literally everything, but everything that I can talk to her about, I talk to her about. And I was talking to her about some stuff, and my grandma was on the phone the other day, and I was like, "Oh, my grandma don't need to be hearing all this tea about me. She don't need to know this about her grandson." But I talk to my grandma about a lot too, so that's just the relationship I have. But anyway, so since I didn't make grades, I couldn't be an RA, and they took care of food, and like they took care of housing and meals. And I'm talking to the girl, and I'm like, "Well, where am I going to live?" And she's like, "I don't know. Have you looked at any apartments?" And she was not helpful at all. Um, she's very blunt, very dry. And it's not that she doesn't care, but she's just extremely blunt and extremely dry. And I was in an emotional state, barely holding myself together. And I went to her like, this is everything I've been going through this year. And like, I'm capable of more. Like, is there a way to like appeal, whatever? Because like I was still above what I needed to maintain to be an RA. I was still above what I needed to maintain to keep that job, but I had two bad semesters in a row. Um, and she was like, "This all sounds like excuses, blah blah blah." And I was like, "How is this all excuses when I literally told my supervisor about it this time? I've been doing everything within my power to do what I can do, but I got held up in the system." And she was like, oh, "It just sounds like excuses." And now it doesn't help that my supervisor was her favorite. And so honestly, my supervisor, she had favorites. She played favorites, and there were certain people that she gave to and other people that she didn't. And I told her what was going on with me, and she never followed up with me. And it's like I'm expected to follow up with the people that I got to follow up with, but my supervisor ain't expected to follow up with me. It's like, do y'all really care? It's like, no. Anyway, so that's why I ended up living off campus for 2 years. I had my own apartment. It was actually kind of nice. The first year was nice. The third semester, so the first half of the second year was nice, and then in the last half of the last year, I got a roommate that was just not the best to live with. We just clashed on several levels, and dude thought I was a pushover, and he thought he can get over on me, but he definitely got the horns out of the fish. She went full shapeshifter from Pisces to bull. Like instead of two fish, she's two bulls. Taurus sun or Taurus moon and rising, girl, and it's horns on both ends. Ain't no BS, just horns on both sides. Anyway, like cat dog. But anyway, so I only had one semester left. I know this is a long story, and I'm actually going to go to the restroom here fairly soon. So that's why I went from being on campus to being off campus. Now, somebody tell me why. I was talking to somebody else, and they were like, well, if you were an RA, then they would have had to find a space for you on campus. Like, and I was like, well, she didn't even tell me that. She's the one that told me to look for apartments. But I was like, wow, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I had a university job, so they got to fit me in the system somewhere. But I didn't even think about that at the time. And so, again, going into my last semester, this is August 2019. So I spent the first half of 2019 in my apartment, no job, barely making ends meet. Thanks to my family for looking out. I had a little bit of money saved over from the previous year, and it lasted up until like January, February. So from February to March, from February to May was all I needed because I already paid June and July. Um, and I was able to make it stretch, but then like April, May, that's when it got real interesting. And so then I started my summer job. Things are taken care of. I'm making money again. That's when I started so in that time, and this is another thing. So in February, I didn't have a job and money was getting tight. And this was at the beginning of my awakening. Not the beginning of my awakening, but this was the beginning of me being serious about working through everything I needed to work through. Because October, like 2 months from graduation, my life fell apart. And again, it was all of the worries and anxieties that I hadn't yet addressed that caused me to do all this, to just fall apart at the finish line. So that's when I went through the darkest part of my dark night. That's when I was like, everything has to change. And then coming into January, I was super intentional about it. So my Wild Unknown Oracle cards, my Wild Unknown Animal Spirits, and my Wild Unknown Tarot came in somewhere around November, like 10, 11, 12. And then I flew to London November 20. And London was amazing. I went with my friend who I went on the retreat with because his brother stays in London. So we stayed with his brother. I met his sister. I met his brother once when he graduated the previous May. So a few months before that, I had met his brother. And then I got to meet his sister. His sister is so cool. Like, honestly, me and his sister, we're so similar in so many ways, but she is like gorgeous. She's beautiful. She's got her life together. And I'm just like, wow, like, yes, his brother is so soft spoken and so just like chill. And I'm like, so I really met the wrong sibling. I really got the short end of the stick when it comes to the three of y'all. I got you. And like your siblings are this cool. His girlfriend, amazing. He's a Libra. Maybe that's the thing. He's really good at attracting people that I gel with. And he attracted me into his life. So, hey, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. But then I look at him and I just get frustrated. Anyway, we went to London. It was amazing. At that point, I had started meditating. I was like day 7 or 8 into Headspace when we went to London. So I had already done 6 days of Headspace, and I did 3 days of meditating before I downloaded Headspace. And the 3 days of meditation, it was like I would go on YouTube, look up a binaural beat, find one that resonated like an hour and a half to 2 hours. And for an hour and a half to 2 hours, I would listen to the full thing and be in meditation, just in it. That's how dedicated I was at the beginning because everything needed to change. And then I got Headspace, and so I was doing the 10-minute beginner course on Headspace in addition to the hour and a half to 2 hour video, right? So I did that for about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks before I went to London. And that had already shifted me enough because, right, I went into my darkest night mid to late October. So it's like October 20 ish, 2018. And then early November 2018, before the note shifted into Cancer and Capricorn, I was getting on my spiritual game. So then I went to London. It was amazing. And while I was there, I was like, if I didn't do the little bit of work I was already doing, this would make me really depressed. Cause this is like I walk into his apartment. Like, first of all, I'm going to London, girl. And like I ain't never left the US. This was my first international trip. Like there was this lady, I kind of sort of met a friend. She was shorter, I'm taller. She needed somebody to put her bag in the overhead. And so as soon as the flight landed, I was like, "Do you want me to grab your bag?" And she was like, "Oh, yes," cuz obviously I'm going to grab her bag before I grab my bag, right? And I'm going to try to grab her bag immediately before everybody is grabbing bags, right? Because I know she's going to ask me for help. So I just offer it up front because I'm that type of person, okay? Like I said, I care about people, okay? And so as soon as it landed, I'm like, "Girl, let me get your bag for you because I know you're going to ask me. And before all the hustle, bustle, and commotion, I'm going to get yours. And then I'm going to go over and get mine, right? And my buddies and whatever else." So anyway, she was like, "Oh, thank you. You're so nice." I was like, "Yeah, I know." And I was like, "This is my first trip, my first time to London, my first time outside the US. I'm so excited," and blah, blah, blah. We land, and it was like, girl, I've never even been in a big city before. We land at like the busiest time, right? It's like the subways are packed. The what do they call them? Whatever they call them, they's packed. It was the underground because they got some that go underground, they got some that go above ground. They got the buses. They also have like a little ferry thing, and they all work on the Oyster card. We could have taken a ferry to get back to his apartment. I was like, "No, I don't do boats. I ain't doing this ferry. We can walk to the subway and we can take the longer route." Now I kind of wish I would have done it. If I go back and do it again, I'll probably try the boat, the ferry. Um, but yeah. Anyway, it was like prime time, girl. I'm just like so far out of my element. I'm standing on the wrong side of the escalator because I'm American, so I just stand wherever I want to stand, and other people walk around me if they got a problem, right? As many folks do over here. When America do as the Americans do and don't care about nobody else. F everybody else, girl. It's all about you when you come here. It's the land of the me, right? Anyway, and so I noticed though that everyone on the right side is standing and people are like walking down the left. So I already pick up on the fact that, okay, I need to scooch back over to the right. But there were people walking around me and I didn't want to, like block them when they're trying to get past me. And then one dude was like, "Stand on the right side, mate." And the other dude was like, "You stand on the right." And they were polite. They could probably tell I was American, fresh off the plane, whatever. And so after those two, I moved over to the right, and it's like everything was busy and we were like switching like lines and walking over here to get on this other line. And I'm like, again, I've never been to a big city, so I've never done stuff like that before. I'm following my friend. Now usually he the type of person to just leave me in the dust because I'm a fairly slow-ish walker. I'm tall and my legs are not super long, but I think I walk slower than people might think I walk. I'm not a quick walker. I don't necessarily do a lot of stuff fast. Okay, I like to take my time and enjoy things. Now he's a fast walker, so a lot of time he just leave me and he be gone. But I'm like, "Suncop, you can't just leave me." That's his name. That's my buddy. I don't think I've ever said his name before, but that's fine. I was like, "Buddy, you can't just leave me. Like, come on now." And he's like, "Okay." And so we get there. We've been on this. I don't even remember how long the flight was, girl. And it's like 7. It's early in the morning over there. It's prime time. People are going to school. People are going to work. People wearing suits and got suitcases and everything, living their life. And so I walk in. First of all, I get off at Canary Wharf, Right. And he was like, we're going to walk from here. Like, there is another stop that we can go to, but we can walk from here. So I'm walking from Canary Wharf. Girl, we get to his building and I do one of these. And he's like, this is the building that my brother lives in. And I'm like, what? We walk in, they got like door people and everything. He was like, hey, like, can I help y'all? Because y'all don't look familiar. And y'all coming in with all these backpacks. He was like, do you know someone who lives here? Or blah, 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 whatever. My friend is doing whatever, blah, blah, blah. We go in. They're like, this building is so tall that literally my ears pop in the elevator. My ears pop in the elevator. Like I said, I've never been in a big city before, okay? And I'm like, we walk into his apartment, and I'm just like, oh, what? Like, it looked like one of the covers from a magazine to me. Honestly, high key, not over exaggerating. For me and what my experience, this 3D physical life has been, that was so far outside of anything I had ever experienced firsthand. It was nicer than some of the nice hotels I've been in, girl. And I don't even know if I usually go to hotels that are that nice because it's usually like cheap, right? Decent enough reviews that we ain't worried about whatever. And actually, there was this one place that we stayed that was like really nice. I actually really like that one. But anyway, I'm just like, what? It had a view. Actually, let me see. One moment. Um, because I took some pictures, like the last picture. Anyway, I'm not gonna get into all the pictures. Girl, the building had a sky lounge, and it's like the view from the actually I am gonna find it. Let's see if I can find it. Because the view from the city at night, girl, like y'all know the Shard in London? Like you can go up, you can pay money to go up the Shard and you get a view that's like breathtaking. The view from his place was like just as good. And I'm like, it just like again, it blew me away. And if I like again, if I wasn't everything that I was, if I didn't work through everything that I worked through, that it would have depressed me. I would have been like, this is like not my life. This is like what I would have felt a little like out of place and a lot of other stuff. Um November 2018, London. Oh my gosh. Take me back. I want to go back. I've had so many dreams of going back to London, honestly. This is us in front of Westminster. I think this is Westminster. Girl, and of course, I'm dark skinned, so I'm over here looking like a shadow, but that's fine. If y'all can even see that. I guess it don't look that bad. And like that's actually one of the days where the sky was really, really, really clear and like really blue. It was one of the few days. It was like so drab other days. Y'all want to see my buddy? Let me see if I can find a good picture. I was playing paparazzi at one point and just like taking pictures of him. um, what was I looking for? I'm looking for the last picture. And then we saw like the changing of the guards. We go there to the place I can't remember. And they're actually playing Mamma Mia. I was like, what? And we actually thought we were gonna miss the changing of the guards because of how the time worked, but we showed up at like just the right time. And it was so funny because they had like little signs and they were telling people, like beware of pickpockets in this area, make sure you do whatever. Like, look at this. The sky was so blue this day. It was gorgeous. Is it gonna focus? She was gorgeous. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I want to go back so bad. And again, like that was the first time I had ever done something like that. Like I had literally just gotten my passport that April. And then he called me in the middle of the summer. He was like, "Hey, I'm going to visit my brother around Thanksgiving in London. Do you want to come with?" And I was like, girl, I'm not gonna say no, of course." And so I went. Also tell me why, like we went to Tate Modern. I get all the way back to America, and I'm talking to my one of these dudes that I'd say he's my friend. He's an older gentleman. I'm friends with a lot of older people. It's not that weird for me. Blame the Capricorn in my chart, I guess. Um, and he looked up Tate Modern on the map, and I was like, "What? The Globe Theater was literally right there. I could have went to the Globe Theater that day." But we'll put it on the list of things that I need to go back for. The London Museum was amazing. I walked inside this building. I was like, I thought I was outside. This is my friend. I'm so bad at taking pictures. You can see a piece of my thumb in this. Even when cameras went digital, some of these pictures, my thumbs still end up in it. Like when I was little and we had Polaroids and we went on vacation, my thumb was in like 75% of the pictures. I had a little Pikachu camera actually. And yeah, my thumb was in those too. So this is my buddy. This is when I was playing paparazzi. I'll cycle through a few of these. His name is Sonny. He a Libra. Am I going the right way? Yeah. I was like, paparazzi. He was like, what are you doing? I was like, sun call. Look over here. Look over here. I'm trying to find. Oh, and then we went to Borough Market. Oh my gosh. Now I'm just talking about going back to London or being in London, and I'm gonna go back. I'm trying to find the video of this building. I'm trying to see if I can find the view. This is one of my favorite pictures that I took of him. Oh, where is it? Oh, I'm sad. There was like this hot dog stand up, and he looked so sad. He looked so sad behind it, and I was thoroughly entertained. Okay, so from the ground, this is what his building looked like. And I'm like, oh my gosh. If you look up like Millennium Wharf or something like that, I think it's in that area. This was some of the view from the roof. I don't even know if did I record it sideways or no. Like that, like from the sky lodge of this building. That's only a piece of it, but it was just like, and I was like freaking out because I'm partially afraid of heights. And it was like glass separating me from the ground, and I think it was kind of windy that day, so your girl was not trying to blow off the side of this building. And it took me literally the whole stay to walk out there. And I'm like, Um, but yeah, I could have got really down on my life. This is turning into all kinds of things, isn't it? So anyway, so cue that summer of 2019. I had already done all of my stuff, not all of my stuff, but I had done a lot of self work from November to that summer, but kicked it into high gear January 2019. Excuse me. And there was a moment in February when I was like, I need to work. I need a job. Like rent is due. And it came back to my mind that every time I would talk to somebody about why I hadn't processed through all the things that I needed to process through mentally, it was like, I was like, during the school year, I'm too focused on school. Over the summers, I'm working. I don't have any time to really do this. And so it came back to my mind in February. And it was like, well, if you start moving, again, going back to that Seven of Cups in the Chariot, the corruptor in the Chariot, it was like, well, if you start working, like you're gonna like you're not when are you gonna have the time to address all this stuff that you need to address? And I was like, you know what? Fair point. So I'm gonna keep doing the work and I'm gonna just trust that these bills is gonna be paid. And the bills were paid by the grace of God and some family who was looking out and other such blessings. And I was able to focus on my work. Um, And so then come May, right? And once you go off campus, it's nearly it is impossible to get back on campus. Impossible. But I was only going to be there for a semester. And I'm like, I'm not signing another year lease. I'm getting on campus. And I believed I was getting on campus. So it was the end of July. And, school starts in August. It was the end of July. And my friends or the people I talked to, they were like, have you looked for apartments yet? Like, you're not getting back on campus. Like, you need to just look at an apartment and they're probably filling up this close to the school year. And I was like, I'm getting on campus. Blah, blah, blah. Now I had this other friend. Also, I ended up meeting this other friend, Pisces. I met a few Pisces. I met quite a few Pisces last year. I rough in the summer, over the summer of 2019, I met a whole bunch of fish. And so one of the fish, office fish, I was talking to her one day and she mentioned the law of attraction. I was like, I haven't heard anyone in my real life mention the law of attraction. I was like, and she was like, and I was like, and she was like, um, and I was like, girl, okay, work, yes. And then, so anyway, I need to make the story shorter. And I still got to go to the restroom, and I'm starting to sweat a little bit. Um, and so it's like the end of the summer, right? And someone mentioned something. Actually, she mentions how somebody reached out to somebody and made something happen. And I was like, whoa, I actually know that person because 2 years prior, oh my gosh, it was like this whole 2 year cycle that had happened. 2 years prior to that was the summer when my life fell apart. Um, I wasn't talking to my mom. I had lost my RA job. I was looking for an apartment. I was working in this one specific building. I was like the supervisor. When I was the supervisor there, someone else worked in that building at the same time. And that's when I started interacting with her. And she was the sister of the dude who I was talking to when I got back from London. And I didn't even know that they were siblings. And I found out, I was like, oh my gosh, I love both of them. They're amazing. Um, He's probably a Libra. He gives me heavy Libra vibes, but he's still cool. She could be. She must be a Pisces because my girl is amazing, and she just has that like bubbly, empathetic sort of like vibe about her. Um, anyway, the signs don't matter. Uh, but that's when I met her and we got and close, but we started like syncing up. And I need some more water. My throat's starting to get a little dry. I'm talking too much. Um, so 2 years prior in this building, I met her again that summer when everything was sort of falling apart and in this transition period. So 2 summers later, I end up working in the exact same building and, in the same neighborhood of buildings. And I was like, wow, last time I was in this building, I was running things. Now I'm not running things, but I know how things are supposed to be ran. I got Capricorn on my 10th house cusp, y'all. Work is literally work is literally the only area of my life where I can be organized, planned on top of everything when it comes to work. Outside of work, everything is chaos. I can't keep a schedule. I can't keep a plan. I can't do a lot of stuff. In the past, that was the old narrative, right? Now I'm structured and organized when I need to be because I've got the discipline to do it. Or that's what we tell ourselves, right? We're manifesting it, we're speaking it into existence. But so work is like the one area where I'm like always on it, girl. And work was a test and a trial for me because the girl, she was not ready to lead. She was not ready to lead. She was not ready to be a leader. And there was one, like, we couldn't settle on a time for our meeting. And we said we were going to meet at one time. And we ended up shifting the time for the meeting. And I was like, girl, I already got plans that I can't cancel. So we'll talk after. And I made sure, like, I was like, you know what? Since we said we were meeting at another time, I already made plans and I can't make it. But like, let me know whatever I miss, or like, if I need to meet up with you, then like, we can do that, right? Like, I did that. And then we work in check-in one day. And I'm working with my dude he's actually a Sagittarius, but he's an honorary Pisces. It's that Jupiter connection. I'm giving him a Neptune pass. That's interesting that I phrased it that way. But I'm giving him a Neptune pass. He's already got Jupiter. He's an honorary Pisces, even though he was a double Sag with the third placement being Leo. And I was like, oof, girl, that's a lot of fire for me. But with him, it worked. So, go figure. Also an empath, also coming into his own awakening. So both the honorary Pisces and the Pisces that I worked with were like in the beginning phases of their awakening and of their journey. And again, it was so interesting that I met people IRL in real life who were kind of sort of going through this. Um, and I was still fresh, but I was able to like by that point, that was May, June. And I had just like started November, got really serious January, but things for me were so intense from January to March, girl, that maybe that was a few years worth of awakening rolled into a few months. And um that's why like I feel like I work at a pace that isn't necessarily for everyone. Um and that's another thing that I need to keep in mind. One of the people that's been able to keep up with me from the beginning is my girl Emily, and we started at the same time, and we've both been full steam ahead. Because I guess that's the magnitude of the dark night I went through, and that she went through, and in that like everything has to change mentality, and we literally like we went through it all. And when we talk to each other, sometimes it's a lot of times it's that like especially since she's an Aries girl, she's got a lot of Aries in her chart, and I got Pisces in my chart. So there'd be sometimes I wouldn't necessarily call out some stuff. And then when I told her that I was working on using my voice more, and she was like, "Wait, so are you telling me that there were things in the past that you weren't telling me or you weren't saying because of whatever?" And I was like, honestly, not too often, but I just wouldn't be like super blunt about it if I didn't have to be. Like I would still bring it up, but not in a way that's like this. Um, and she was like, "Oh, okay, good." And then she would like be like, she would just like make sure I'm like, now it's gorgeous. Anyway, whatever. The pace that I work at doesn't necessarily match the pace of a lot of people, and that's something that I have to keep in mind. Um, and so I can't be too upset or frustrated or whatever. And again, it's like I know that, and that's why sometimes I feel like I'm not being watery enough. And, it's a whole thing. Anyway, continuing the story. Um, yeah, but she was like, oh, well, Patrick wasn't at the meeting, so that's why he doesn't know. I was like, girl, no, ma'am. Because first of all, you should have been in charge enough to set the date and the time. First of all, and then I would have been there. Miss, oh, let's do it at the last minute. Girl, no. Like, people got lives. Hello? No. Second of all, Patrick contacted you personally, and you told Patrick that basically he ain't missed nothing. So don't be up here talking about, oh, well, Patrick wasn't at the meeting. Like, Patrick ain't trying to talk about, like, before Patrick missed the meeting, he let you know and gave you the opportunity up front. After the meeting, you was like, oh, just meet up with me. And so Patrick met up with you. Patrick reached out to you and like, oh, you didn't really miss nothing. So don't be pulling this whole like, well, Patrick wasn't at the meeting, so that's why he doesn't know. Because I'm like, girl, she, I'll just say she wasn't ready to lead. She was not ready to lead. And she was not the type of person to step up when a situation went down. And she had my dude, because my dude is the type of person to do the most. He'll step up in situations where he ain't even supposed to be stepping up. And she ain't taking charge in situations where she need to take charge. So naturally, a situation arises and he go off to handle it. And we have this call out structure system. We have the system where you call up, girl, you call up. And there's the situation that he went off to handle that he was not supposed to be handling because that's above his pay grade and that's what she gets paid to do. And it's not just that's what she gets paid to do, that's what she's trained to do, and we're not. And like there was a legitimate situation happening and no one was calling it up. And she was right there. And so my other girl walk in and she like we worked together in a previous summer, so she kept her position. I came in under a lower position because I wasn't trying to have all the responsibility at the time and I didn't know what I would be doing over the summer, and I didn't want to commit to that position because honestly I didn't want to work it. um but closer to the summer I knew I would meet somebody that summer that would make it worthwhile, and I met several people that summer, so hey, it ended up working out. But the honorary Pisces, he is the dude that I knew I would meet. I was like, I know that there's at least one person that I'm gonna work with that is gonna be like, I don't know what this person is gonna whatever, but something about this person will be very important. And it was him. And like I said, like we're both empathic. So I just told him like I knew that I would meet somebody this summer, and it was you. he was like, "Oh my gosh, really?" I was like, "Yeah, like for real." I was like, "Oh, that's so sweet." I need to reach out to him and see how he's doing. Anyway, so he's going out taking care of this issue he's not supposed to be taking care of. No one is calling it up. And like if I call up, I'm calling it up to this girl that should have been taking care of the issue in the first place. And I told her, I said like, hey, like well, I was like, hey, maybe we should call this up instead of being like trying to tell somebody how to do their job, right? I wasn't like, you need to call this up. I was just like, I wonder if we should call this up since this is a whole situation going on. Somebody full time and not a student should know about what's happening right now. And she was like, okay. So apparently she texted the dude who was taking care of the situation that she was supposed to be taking care of and told him to call it up while he's in the middle of actually handling the situation that she should have been taking care of. And so this other girl walked in. I'm like, girl, so this is going down and nobody's called it up yet. And she was like, what, are you serious? I was like, yeah. And she was like, well, where's the person who's supposed to be here? And I was like, she over there. And she was like, and then that's when she was like, hey, so like, are we calling this up? And she was like, well, I told the other person to call it up. So and I'm like, well, if he followed the chain of command and he call up, girl, guess who he calling? You. And you're calling it up. So regardless, either way, you should be calling this up. She was very much that girl. Like I said, she wasn't ready to lead. And I got too much Capricorn in my 10th house. That was a whole set of tests and trials in and of itself for me. It was. It was. Anyway, so coming off of that summer, the HP, the honorary Pisces, we'll call him HP, and he wears glasses, and he probably likes Harry Potter. We'll call him HP. Um, okay, so my girl, the actual Pisces, we'll call her AP. So AP was in the office, and she was like, "I got this friend that talked to this one person, and bada bang, bada boom, some stuff happened." I was like, "What?" And HP was like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Wow, that's interesting," because I worked with her a few summers ago, the last time I was in here. So then it came time for me to sort of, and like I was at my university working and things long enough. I had connections. I'm not going to say I didn't have connections. I had connections, well earned, well deserved connections. Because again, I had a bit of a presence. Like I actually did some stuff, right? And so, like, also, and I guess this isn't me tooting my own horn, but I guess it is. I was actually invited to be on the inaugural Men's Leadership Series committee, like on the board. I was the only student. And again, this was that summer where my whole life was falling apart. It was all that summer. And I was invited to do it by somebody who I worked around in the past. And again, I'm a student. These are full time people, but I got Capricorn in my 10th house. So, your girl's got reputation in the area of the house where reputation is. Capricorn is 10th house. I got Capricorn on my 10th house. I just naturally, the things for me, they just line up in that way. And I also got the integrity when it comes to work because, Capricorn on my 9 and 10, right? Hold up. Yeah, because I got Scorpio on the 7th, Sag on the 8th, and then Capricorn on the 9 and the 10. And then I have Aries and Leo, or Aries and Libra intercepted. So I got Cancer and Capricorn that are cusp in 2 houses in my chart. The 3 and the 4, and then the 9 and the 10. Anyway. He invited me to be, he was like, yeah, we want to have a student on the board and, we're going to be rolling out the men's leadership series. And I'd love for you to like, he was like, just come to the meeting, check it out. I was like, okay. I get to the meeting. I'm like, first of all, I'm like the first person there. Then people come in. It's like one person and then another person and then like 2 or 3 more people. So altogether, there's like 5 or 6 of us and I'm the only student. And I'm like, excuse me. And then I don't know why Pitch Perfect just came to my mind. And at the end of the meeting, he's like, okay, and Patrick, this is what I want you to do. And I was like, first of all, Patrick thought this was an informational meeting because you were like, hey, Patrick, like, this is what's going on. Just come in to the meeting, see if it's something that you're interested in. And you already giving me stuff to do. Also, that's where I got my cute little binder portfolio. Is it this right there? Yes, it is. So, girl, I'm sorry. I'm so Capricorn and dry. Like I said, I got Capricorn. Like Venus is my ruling planet, but Capricorn is literally right there. Or Saturn is literally right there. I got Capricorn and Aquarius. So when he was like, "What can we do?" I was like, "You know what? Honestly, gets my cat placements going. Like binder portfolios. We can give those to people." And I didn't go to the men's leadership series for the first year or the second year, but I did it the third year. And I think I saw him. And he was like, "Are you going to the men's leadership series this year?" And I was like, "I wasn't invited this year." He was like, "Well, you don't really have to be invited. You can just kind of sort of whatever." And I was like, "Okay, well then, yeah." And that was a step for me, um, because I wasn't necessarily comfortable. And another reason why, because like I had lost my RA job, right? Because my personal life fell apart and I just couldn't keep up with grades and the residents and everything else going on. And so I held a little bit of shame about that. And I was like, because he was like, "Oh, this is Patrick and he's an RA and blah, 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 blah. He's been working in and around the system for a hot minute, you know, and I was. But I held a little bit of shame about that. So I was like, and honestly, mentally, I wasn't in the space to give that any kind of anything. And that's why I was like, you know what, this year I'm going to have to decline because I don't have the capacity for it. But we got these cute little mini binder portfolios, girl. I've never seen one this small. They're so cute. And I want to say this is the piece of my contribution that lived on. Um, and I got this men's leadership series sticker. It's a decal, I think, for like laptops or whatever. And I never put it on my laptop, and I wanted to do that. Does it have yeah, it does have the university name up here. I'll just block it out, even though y'all probably already know where I went. But yeah, it's like a little bow tie. She's cute. It's cute. Um, anyway, so that happened, right? AP was telling me about this person. I was like, oh wait, I actually like know her. And so then HP was like, oh, well, when it was closer to the end of the summer, and I was like, I still need somewhere to live. And I was like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. On campus is going to happen. I went to the office, to the housing office, and they're like, it's not going to happen, girl. Other people were like, it's not going to happen, girl. And I was like, well, y'all don't know the God I know. The God that I know is the God of working miracles. I went back to my Christian days growing up in the church. I was like, that ain't the God I believe in. The God I believe in, he can do anything and all things. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me, is what I was raised on. I was raised on, but if you have the faith the size of a grain of a mustard seed, you can move mountains, and mountains will move when you tell them to move. That's the faith I was raised on. So I was like, I'm getting back on campus. I'm getting in these dormitories, these residence halls, and I know what's going to happen for me. So no, I'm not looking for an apartment. I don't care what day it is. And when school starts, I'm going to get back on campus. And so then, like, I knew I should reach out to people because it was the end of July. I was like, I know I should reach out to people. I procrastinate. I used to procrastinate. And HP was like, have you reached out to her? You need to reach out to her. And I was like, oh, not yet, HP, but I'll do it. And so one day I sent an email to her and to two other people. And I was banking on two of the other people on coming through for me. And I just put her in there as like not a last resort, but I just put her in there because it came to my mind. Turns out she's the only person that replied to my email. The two people who I had more of a relationship and more of a connection with, the two people who I actually like worked directly under, neither one of them replied to me. She's the one that replied. And it just so happened she was like, you know what? We have this one space. We have one space. And if you want in this space, you need to tell me like no. And I was like, girl, yes. And so that's the story of how I ended up back on campus, even though everyone thought I wouldn't, and I knew I would. But also, if I would have procrastinated on that action, I would have missed it. I would have missed out if I didn't act when in the time it was time for me to act and the way it was time for me to act, including the offshoot, the off chance, the other stuff. And I got to go to the bathroom. So I'll be right back. I know this video is extremely long, but hey, I don't care. I'm just talking today. And I'm going to get some more water when I come back because my throat is dry. BRB. I just pulled my chest hair a little bit. That kind of hurt. Anyway, this whole story is like it's all back and forth, girl. So anyway, I reach out to her. She's like, we got one space. You got to let me know today. I was like, work. Yes, I'll take it. And again, I honestly thought one of the other two people would have come through for me, but it was her. And so that's how I ended up back on campus. Now, I have some financial aid that comes through a specific agency, we'll call it. But that agency covers exclusively like school, right? But since I went from living off campus in the system to living on campus in the system, it changed how much the school charged me. And so I had to update them on that information. And again, it happened at the end of July. And so there wasn't enough time to get everything sort of settled before the school year started. So school year starts. This is happening. It's been a week. My school isn't paid for because they're still updating all the other stuff, right? And so I get canceled the first week after the first week of school, or like the first 10 days or whatever, like the first 2 weeks, because my school wasn't paid for. And I'm like, canceled, like, so I can't get on the Blackboard. I can't access the coursework online or anything. I'm like, what's happening? So I talked to them and they're like, well, it's because of this and that. I was like, okay, well, I submitted the information late because everything changed late. I went from not on campus to on campus. That added all of the housing and meals, like the room and board, onto my account. I told them, they were fairly understanding. I talked to my professors, let them know what's up. And I was like, I can't access anything online, so I'm going to still show up and do my best, right? That was the plan. Then I get this one lady, not that great. Maybe she's fine in her personal life. I haven't heard anything good about her, and my experience with her wasn't that great. But I told her my plan, and she was like, okay. And so my initial plan was to keep going to classes, right? But this lady was hounding me and hounding me. And so now I'm running around doing all of this interim stuff that ultimately doesn't matter because everything will come in when it comes in. And I've already talked to the people. She doesn't want to hear it. She's like, you need to do more. You need to be doing more. I'm like, okay. So that's why I had initially planned on going to class, but that pushed everything to the side. And then again, like my school laptop, literally the day before, the night before I was going to take my laptop to get some software installed on it because my eyes, that would help me out in class. The night before I was going to take my laptop in, it stopped working. So that's another thing I was supposed to have done before school started. I was supposed to have the software and my laptop. My laptop died. I didn't yet have my school money to come in to fix it. I worked at the university over the summer. I wasn't able to get my laptop fixed until October, 2 months into the semester, and like a month and a half from the close of the semester. But anyway, this lady is hounding me. I'm like, I'm literally doing all that I can right now. I talked to her one day. I talked to her one day, and she's like, well, I'm gonna give you one more week to get this, and she like low key trying to threaten me, but again, like I know that I didn't just get this space in order to lose this space, and I know that everything is gonna work out in the time that it works out, and I'm not necessarily stressed about it, but she trying to get me to stress about it. But at the same time, I have to appease her. And she's like, well, if you don't do whatever, then I'm gonna call so and so, and we're gonna engage this. I'm like, girl, I probably know your boss. Maybe not, but I might. Shoot. And so, um, so I'm literally talking to her, and I'm like, okay, this is my plan, and this is what I'm gonna do. And she's like, okay, I'll give you to the end of next Friday. This was like a Wednesday or something. Tell me why. She calls me like the next day. And she's like, well, things are going to change like the end of this week and the end of this week. So by tomorrow night, and in my mind, I'm like, girl, I literally just talked to you less than 24 hours ago, and you told me I had until next Friday. But now all of a sudden you got amnesia. And we're talking about, I'm like, that's why I couldn't win with her. And I couldn't do whatever I was going to do. And then so it delayed these things. So what happened was in October, I get this amount of money that pops up on my account by the time this comes, my school is paid for, right? And I'm back in classes. But since it was delayed, like all of my refund money, like it was also delayed. So this amount of money pops into my account that looks to me like what I'm supposed to be getting. So I go and get my laptop fixed, all kinds of other stuff that I needed to take care of with that money I'm taking care of, right? Because that's how I set it up. I set it up so I'd be able to take care of everything and not have to work that semester, even though I've worked for like a month and that didn't work out for me. Um, because it just like I was already behind because of all the other foolishness that I had to like pick and choose, and work just wasn't working. And I was literally there for like a week, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna have to step out. I'm so sorry. And she was like, oh, it's fine, it's cool. Like, because I was replacing somebody who had just left. And she was like, well, now I gotta find somebody else again. And I was like, but I'll stay and work until you find somebody because I'm not gonna leave y'all hanging, right? But anyway, I get this amount of money into my account that looks exactly like what I was expecting. And so I get my laptop fixed, I take care of other stuff, I do whatever. Then a whole month later, like that was the beginning of October, I got that money. At the end of October, somebody is like, hey, we made a mistake and accidentally paid you extra for your summer. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? To the tune of like a sum of money that I don't just have laying around. And I look at it and I'm like, oh, because I go back into my account and I noticed it one day because I went to go get a drink. I went to go get a drink and I was using Apple Pay. And I don't have the bank that I have here because I bank at a credit union and like they're not Apple Pay, or at the time they weren't on Apple Pay, but I also had a Chase account when I was at school. And my Chase account, I knew what I had, but I was like, I was in the bar and I didn't have my wallet, but they said I could Apple Pay. I was like, okay, cute. I had my ID because I keep my ID in my phone case. Um, and so I checked my Chase and I'm like, I got money in here. Oh, snap. So yeah, I would like 2 drinks, please. And I Apple paid. And I was like, it's already weird because I have the way my account is set up when I get paid, I have it divided between like 3 accounts, right? I got my Chase account, I have my savings, and then I have my checking account. And I thought it was weird that I went to Chase, but I was like, well, maybe since I have it set up over the summer when they dispersed my refund, they did it the same way. But then I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, it's looking like a paycheck. It's not looking like that refund money, but it's about the amount, so I'm not gonna pay it any mind. End of October, they're like, hey, we paid you this amount from the summer. It was a mistake, blah blah blah. And I was like, and then like, yeah, we're gonna need that money back. And I was like, excuse me. And like, how did that? So like, they somehow had it where I was still on payroll. Now over the summer, we got paid every 2 weeks. The last paycheck I got was like mid August. So tell me why all of September passes, no money. And then all of a sudden, y'all want to drop this money as like some kind of back pay. And it was even more than what I would have been paid if I had kept working. And in my mind, I'm like, this don't make sense. And this ain't my problem. Now, what my problem was when I went to go have it handled and I actually signed my name on paying it back. And that's in the moment I was like, well, I want to look at this. I want to look into this before I just sign whatever. But when she printed it off and when she grabbed that pen in the moment, I was like, like I can't even blame that on Mercury retrograde. Actually, Mercury was probably in its pre-shadow because Mercury went retrograde around Halloween. And I know that happened like mid to early October. So Mercury could have been in its post shadow, but anyway, in its pre shadow, but anyway, signing things, girl. And my mom was like, why did you sign it? And I was like, because she had the pen and I couldn't just walk away. So that's when I ended up signing to paying back money that I was like, what? And then, so it turns out I get my refund, and the refund was less than what it should have been. And I go talk to them, and I'm like, this is what it should have been, da 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 da, do do do. And I was like, yeah, well, no. And so, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I still needed that taken care of. But now I come with this like money that I don't have, right? So I'm telling her, I'm like, girl, look, I ain't got no job lined up right now. And I'm going to be primarily focused on finishing this schoolwork so I can get my degree, so I can get a job with that degree, so I can make money. And she was like, okay, well, what, like, can you, blah, 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 whatever, too, right? So then, so they gave me one amount if I paid it back before January 1, and another amount if I pay it back after January 1, right? And that was because of the tax year. And so since it got paid, when I went to file my taxes in April or March, I think I filed in March. When I went to file my taxes in March, because I got the extra money through working, I got more money back on my taxes. So when everything else shut down, that's part of what helped me be in a fairly good position. And that's why I was like, the setback from them making the mistake of overpaying me ended up turning into a blessing when I filed for my taxes, right? And I have to pay all that money back to the school. So it's not like I really come out on the positive end of it because they already gave me the post tax amount that I would have to pay. But because that happened, it ended up putting me in a little bit better of a position because I got more back on my taxes. And I was like, wow, so that kind of sort of ended up working out. And that's the story about all that. Now, yeah. So again, for me, like I said, like there have been so many like moments and times when it's like things have been progressively building for me. Right. First came manifesting that spot on campus, even when no one else believed it would happen. And I just like with that, honestly, I just had a knowing that it would happen. So for me, it wasn't really a question because I just knew it. Um, I was like, I don't know how, and it doesn't look like it's even possible, but I just know it's going to happen, and I'm not going to question it. So no, I'm not looking at apartments. Right. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, what I was talking about was how I found myself in a better position when I thought I was hitting setbacks before. Right. I was also talking about how the way, like, the reason why I approach stillness and inaction the way I approach it now could look self sabotaging, but it's not. Again, the approach is different, the knowing is different. And again, with that Seven of Cups going into the Chariot, it's like, and with the I Ching being about inaction, right? It's like I don't know. It's like there are certain opportunities that pop up. And again, like going back to the schooling, I was like, wow, like this is something I actually wanted to do. This was a dream that I had that I hadn't given up on. And now you're telling me that not only can I do it, but I can do it in a foreign country and do like in Abu Dhabi. I can get multiple things at once. Like what, girl? Really? But again, at the end of the day, something about it didn't feel right. It was like I didn't just finish school to go do more school. And now with this job, it's like it's in the area that I want to be in. It's doing work that I wouldn't mind doing for a company that's international. So that's another check on the list. But again, something about it was like, no, this doesn't feel like it. This isn't the next step for me. But again, like, and that's how sort of devil energy can come in sometimes. It can give you everything that you're wanting, but if that's not it, it's not it, right? And that's again why I say, like, be careful of how you kind of sort of approach things, because devil energy knows what you want just as much. And devil energy for some of the stuff, it can give you something that on the outside looks like what you want, but if it's not aligned, you'll be able to feel it. And that's what all of that was to talk about, and how things just end up working out in whatever ways. The rant was a rant, was a ramble, was a ramble. I'm gonna shut this down now. Um, my throat is sufficiently dry from all of the talking, but that's fine. And but again, like, so whenever I say something on here, like, because I know, I'm sure that it can come off however it comes off, but like I have this perspective and opinion because of my actual like lived experiences. And there's been so much happening. That's another thing I was talking about. Um, Before the end of last year, whenever I came upon these like pivotal moments, I would have to like drop everything, isolate, hermit, process everything, and then come out. But because of everything that happened, I was put in the position to process as I go. And now I don't always need these hermit modes to process things. And again, it's because of the experiences I've had, and it's because of how I chose to show up in those experiences that have put me in this amazing and magnificent position that I'm in now. And it's like I can enjoy this position that I'm in guilt free, and not having to worry about how it makes other people feel about themselves or their own journey. Because again, like I didn't do the work for myself in order to downplay now. I'm sorry. I actually am sorry. I was gonna say, but not really, because again, like my pace, I feel like isn't necessarily for everybody. The way that I approach things isn't necessarily for everybody, and some of it may have had roots in the shadow, but there are also strengths in the shadow, right? And I think that's one of the things that we don't necessarily too much look at or consider. But when you have it integrated and when it's healthy and when it's balanced, then that's what it is. You can take the strengths of the shadow without necessarily having to fall prey to all of the pitfalls and weaknesses of it, right? Um, and the light has pitfalls and weaknesses too, right? over giving, overextending, burning yourself out, not having anything left over to give to yourself, right? Same thing. That's why the balance is so important. And like that's why like the best way to navigate through all of this is just to take it as it comes and to really show up in those moments, because again, it's because I've handled everything the way I've handled it. It's because I've handled everything the way that I have handled it that puts me in the position that I'm in now, where I can be more in flow and I can be more observant and aware. And again, like back in February, when I was like, it looks like if I watch, like if I'm in this mindset and I pull up my YouTube, I get all of these videos that align with that. But literally, if I'm reading the titles, even if that's how I'm feeling, and I'm like, like that's not the approach that I want to have. And so if my mindset shifts and changes, and I refresh the page, literally videos on this new frequency I'm on, and I'm looking at that because again, like I'm critical and I observe everything. And I'm like, so if I'm in this mindset and that's affirmed, and if I'm in this mindset and that's affirmed, literally within the span of seconds, within the time it took me to like try to look at it from a different perspective, everything changed. And for me, that highlighted how our reality is really, how everything is in flux right now. And I talked about it right back in February. And that's when I was like, Spirit has given us the keys on my legacy channel, because this channel didn't exist at that time, interestingly enough, right? But I was like, Spirit's giving us the keys and asking us to drive and doing this and doing that. And like anything that we kind of sort of think is being affirmed. And there are so many people that feel lost right now, people who were feeling lost in January, February. And it's like, that's because of this and that. And now March happened. April, May, June, end of May into June. Now we're in July, going into August. It's like everything has been building upon each other. And I feel like that's the thing about energy, right? It's like it's always building, but if you're not paying attention, or if you're not fully present and aware and engaged in the moment, then some of this stuff can kind of sort of pass you by. And so for me, when I come upon my test, it's like a continuation of what I was already doing, because I've been involved in the learning process the whole time. Excuse me. But for some other people, it's like there are these things that are sort of like trying to get your attention. But if you're not noticing them before the test, then you come upon the point where you're supposed to be putting everything into motion that you should have learned or that you were exposed to. And that's when it may be a little bit more difficult. Right. And again, it's like I can understand that, because it ain't like I didn't live like 25 and a half, almost 26 years of my life, just like, and I'm only 27, uh, just like self sabotaging and doing everything else. But with the perspective that I have now, like with my life being what it is now, with my relationship with myself and with spirit being what it is now, it's like there are certain things that are valid and are understandable, but they just don't serve. They don't get you to go where it is that you want to go. And I think we're coming into the space of realizing that, a lot of us. And also at the same time, it's like sometimes you have to be a little bit more critical beyond what is affirming what you already believe. Because again, like I said, you can come from this way or you can come from that way, but at the end of the day, they both meet here. But your approach to that is different. And it's your approach and your intention that's sort of being observed and tested and everything else. From my limited human perspective of everything that's happening and going on in the 3D. But anyway, I kind of want to end this with something. I'll get an energy oracle card just to see what energies are swirling around, if I can feel it, find it, if I can find it, if I can feel it. But, and again, another thing for me was not needing confirmation. Um, it was like no longer waiting until somebody else is talking about what I feel happening and going down. Actually, I'll pull some of these with the Energy Oracle cards. I haven't used my Witch's Tarot in a minute, and it's kind of sad. I love that deck. Yeah. Where is it? It's probably under here. Is it under here? Where is it? Where's my energy? Where are my Energy Oracle cards? Hello? Girl, we may not be pulling them then, I guess. Since they want to be in hiding. It's not there. It's not. Oh, wait, is this it? No. I don't know where they are. Okay, well, we'll just use the Witch's Tarot then. I guess I don't really need anything, but we're going to pull them anyway. But yeah, if I had to give any advice right now, I mean, I feel like I say it all the time. It's just like, it's time to take thoughts beyond just the realm of the shadow, right? I recently found a new channel. Her name is Rebecca Abraxas. And she's got like 200 something subscribers. And she popped up on my feed. And I was like, I don't know if she done paid YouTube to push this video out or if she just came across my path when she needed to come across. But she had a video that was like, light workers and light royals. And she was like, I'm a light queen. I said, yes, queen. Because like I've been saying, some people are stars, some people are satellites. And it's fine. But if you're supposed to be a star, if you signed up to be a star, you might want to get into that star functionality because it's not going to get you as far as being a satellite. Or being a satellite isn't going to get you as far as being a star. And depending on what your path and your journey is, it's going to look different. Right? But that's the thing. Okay, I want like 3-ish cards around. I could try to see. I like shuffling this way because whenever I shuffle the other way, I just don't like it personally. See, like, the cards, they jump out too aggressive. I'll do it this way. If anything wants to gently come out, that would be greatly appreciated. Okay. The Four of Cups, interesting. Bottom of the deck for the Four of Cups is the Five of Pentacles. So this is definitely us feeling like we're on the outside of something. With this Four of Cups in particular, it feels like we're on the outside of something that we felt was ours. Or something that we can now recognize as. See, that's the thing about the Four of Cups. I think this is a post Four of Cups, right? Because with the Four of Cups, a lot of times it's someone being depicted as like meditating or waiting for something, with the answer from Spirit being there in the hand of the cloud, but they're not accepting it. And so it almost feels like, and then with the Seven of Swords now at the bottom of the deck, with the shadow side behind the Seven of Swords, and the Knight of Cups behind the shadow side. But it's like our own insecurities or whatever. Not insecurities. There was a sort of an illusion. We didn't recognize whatever this was for all that it was in the time that it was presented to us. And so maybe we didn't appreciate it fully, or we didn't fully embark upon whatever we could have embarked upon. And now this Four of Cups is like, wow, that was my one opportunity and I missed it. Now the thing is, with time and lessons in life and everything else, I don't want to say we never miss it, because sometimes we do, honestly. But with this year, with this time, it's like things that are meant to be and things that are meant to come back. There's a window for all of that to come back and for all of that to be. That's a lot. Six of Pentacles was at the top of that little stack, though. Six of Wands, sorry. That victory can still be claimed, but you're not going to claim that victory if you're in the energy of moping and missing out, right? And you're only going to claim it if you're willing and able and ready to move forward. And that's one of the things for me. It's like, and again, this is one of the things that it's my own personal experience. I know that the best of my days are ahead of me. And so when I'm tapping into like something good, like the Six of Cups for me hardly is like looking back on the past. Like it is in some ways, but like I said, like I know that the better and the best of my days are ahead of me. So I'm not looking towards the past to try to bring anything into the future, right? If anything comes back into the future, it'll resurface in the future. It'll come back in the now moment whenever the now moment is right. And it's not going to be what it was before. It's going to be better. It's going to be different because I'm different and I'm better. Not better, but I'm different. I'm more evolved. I'm more me. I'm more aligned, right? And so that's the thing for me. It's like, it's not always about looking back to the past. Even if there is something good in the past, if it's going to come back, it's going to come back tomorrow or today. It's not going to come back yesterday and rewrite history. So again, it's about looking forward. And like I said, I can take that perspective with the moon card. I can take that perspective because I don't want to say my life hasn't been particularly like glamorous or glorious. But again, like I said, I know that my better and my best days are ahead of me. So, hey, girl, no. I ain't taking either one of these, but the Hierophants and my card, y'all. Y'all notice my card. The Six of Pentacles came at the top of these stacks. There we go. I'm trying not to get shadows all over the cards. The Hierophant and the Six of Pentacles. Both of those are Taurian energy, by the way. So, hey. And the Eight of Cups. So with the Eight of Cups and the Moon card and the Eight of Wands at the bottom of the deck. Where is you? There you go. This is about walking away from something even when we don't know what we're walking towards. Like I said, for me, I know my better and my best days are ahead of me. And so there's nothing in the past. Like the past has nothing to give me. Right? And I'm not saying that people from my past don't. I'm not saying that opportunities from my past don't. And I'm not saying that dreams from my past don't have anything to give me. But the past as it was has nothing left for me. Right? And for anything that's meant to come back, it'll come back in the future. Or it'll come back in a way that I don't expect, right? But yeah, and the moon, we see the moon in the sky of the Eight of Cups as well. So it's just like reaffirming whenever we approach situations open-mindedly, open-heartedly, and we allow the universe. Okay, I'll take these and I'll be done. Oh, Queen of Swords, bottom of the deck is the Six of Cups. That's a soulmate card. I learned it in Soulmates, also nostalgia, and thinking fondly on the past. Bye. Soulmates. Ooh, this is some interesting energy. That's not who I expected. Um, but yeah, sometimes it's like when we leave things open, when we leave those spaces open, right? Instead of trying to fill it with stuff, when we allow things to be as they are, then the things that are supposed to be are allowed to come in as they will be. And I would repeat that. When we allow things to be as they are, then the things that are supposed to be are allowed to come in as they will be. And there's so much of that that is unknown. And sometimes it's like we need to know what we're going towards in order to leave something else. And it's very human and it's very understandable. But like, that's the whole thing. That's the thing about the whole like life. That's the thing about life, right? Everything is understandable. Everything is valid. So much is valid and so much is understandable. And especially being a human, but it's like, at what point are we going to step outside of that and step into the divinity of who we are? Don't ask. Right? And it's like, whereas something like it's understandable if I get upset, and it's understandable if I'm down. It's understandable if I don't think that things are going to change because of how they look, right? It's understandable if I have a pessimistic worldview because of everything that is happening in the world right now and what continues to happen in the world right now. It's all understandable, sure, but just because it's understandable doesn't mean I'm going to choose it, girl. I choose to align with the highest and the higher. And that's the thing about the moon and the Eight of Cups, right? Sometimes you walk away because you know it's just time to walk away. You don't need to know what the next thing is concretely to move, right? You don't. And also, like, there were also times when I came into situations that I didn't even feel ready for. And in those situations, I did my best and I showed up as best as I could. And when I was showing up as best as I could, at the same time, I was dealing with things internally that would have prevented me from showing up. But because the call for me was as strong as it was, because the situation for me was worth all of what it was worth, to me, it was a no brainer. Um, it was like a non choice, right? It was like I could stay in my old ways, or I could come into who I'm supposed to be. And for me, it was a non choice. It was a no brainer. It's like I'm gonna stretch myself. I'm gonna grow. Cause even if I don't feel ready, I'm gonna be as ready in this moment as I can be, and I'm gonna continue to grow because it's too good to not try. It's too good to not try, to not show up. There's too much to gain. And that old self sabotaging me, I don't miss it. If I would have stuck in that, I would probably be just as lost and confused as a lot of people right now. But again, it's because I chose to show up in the way that I showed up that lent me this perspective, this knowing, this experience, right? And yeah, I've come out in a way that I didn't expect. Like, if you would have told me that this is who I'd be, even in January, even in February, if you would have told me that this is a spot that I would be in come June, July, it probably would have freaked me out a little bit. And what's interesting is last November, I don't know why it happened the way it happened. And I don't know what it was about the situation that triggered it. But last November around Thanksgiving, somebody called me by my name for the first time. And it really shook me for some reason. And I don't know what it was about the person who called me by my name. And I don't know what it was about that time. But it really shook me. And it had me in a space of not questioning everything, but honestly, in that moment, when I was thinking about why it would have impacted me that way, in my little like mental spaces, it was like I was standing in front of this sun, and all of the light that was that sun was me. And I was intimidated by it. I was like, that's a lot. That's a lot. And I'm not ready for all that. I'm not trying to be all that. Like like old me is like, if I can just coast through life and be happy, that's all I want. All I want is to be happy. I don't need to be like rich and famous and all this other stuff. Like, it would be nice, sure, but ultimately at the end of the day, I want to be happy. I want to be fulfilled. I want to have my needs met and my wants met too. Um, but like I said, I just want to be happy. And being face to face or face to star with all of that light. And again, I don't know why it did that to me, but it was extremely intimidating. And for like 2 days, I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. Like, I did this, and that's too much. I'm not trying to be all that. It's like I'm going back. I'm going back. I don't want to be known. I want to. I don't. I want to be obscure, right? I just want to be in a corner somewhere, just not engaging with anybody. But after like the second day, or on the second day, I went outside by the truck. I was getting some sunlight, and I was breathing. Hold up, was that day? No, that was a different day. That was March. But I think what happened, I ended up talking to Emily that day. There was somebody else that I wanted to talk to, but they were going through their own thing. And that was actually one of the first times when someone reached out to me and I was like, hey, like, I can't remember how I said it, but I was like, I'm sorry, I can't. Cause I was literally going through it. I don't know why. Again, I don't know why I was so like, why it shook me so much. And I don't know why it caused me to face that tremendous light within me. Like the potential of who I am and what I'm capable of and what my life can be. It was a lot. But again, after on the second day I came to and I was like, okay, if this is what it is, and I'll step up to it. So I'm not gonna say that I wouldn't have been this, but January, February, to know that I'm in this space that I'm in now of like speaking and just like really kind of sort of not holding back in some areas, I would have been shook. It probably would have frightened me a little bit. But like I say, I just continue to show up. And when you continue to show up, sometimes you just become. So 3 cards came out. Bottom of the deck is the 7 of Cups now. Oh, actually, it's not the 7 of Cups. Bottom of the deck is the 6 of Cups, but the 7 of Cups is right behind it, apparently. Y'all probably can't see that. Oh, there's the 7. Here's the 6. 7. So the Queen of Swords came out, and I was like, oh, we've already seen the Scarlet Shield. Perfect. That's about speaking your truth. So this opportunity may have passed, but it's like the opportunity hasn't passed, but it's the first phase of this may have passed, or the first few phases of this may have passed, right? But if you use the power of your voice to speak your truth, if your words ring true, they'll send echoes and vibrations through the ether, and it will pull these things back to you that you may think have drifted or floated off apart. Right? It's like it's not outside of the realm of your possibility. It's not outside the realm of possibility, but now it's going to require you to be in this truth seeking and this mode of just honesty, right? You just got to be, sometimes you got to be open and vulnerable. And if you don't, like, you're going to be in this hangman state where, again, it's like that crow is holding everything that you want in its mouth. But if you're not going to sort of like get up there and get it, it's going to continue to feel like it's out of reach. And we have this moon card, or this hangman sitting right under the moon card. So there's heavy Piscean energy here. There's a lot of water. We got Cancer with the 4 of Cups. We got the moon with, or we got Pisces with the moon. We have Pisces with the 8 of Cups, Libra with the Queen of Swords, and water energy or Neptune energy or Pisces energy in the hangman. Right? The hangman is water traditionally, more modernly Neptune, and therefore Pisces. And so we got 3 Piscean cards if you look at the 8 of Cups. But lots of water here, lots of air, which is fluidity. But then on the other side of that hangman is this King of Wands, this Leo energy. So this King of Wands is the only fixed energy on the table, right? We got lots of Pisces, mutable, fluid. Even the 4 of Cups, that's cardinal, fluid. The Queen of Swords is cardinal, air, also fluid. Water and air are fluid elements. And then you got this King of Wands who is defiantly going to stick to everything that they know, right? I feel like with this King of Wands in particular, it's like if you don't speak your truth, then you won't receive these things. And that's going to be you sitting on this throne of like, this is the it's like the best of what I can do or something, you know. It's like you're gonna be sitting there feeling some type of way, maybe, And it's not because you weren't capable of getting it, it's just because you didn't act on it. You didn't go after it, right? And I feel like for the King of Wands energy, that might be a little hard for a King of Wands to take, because the King of Wands is all about sort of going after what you want and getting it. It's the King of Wands, like, if he wanted it, he got it. So, and it's not necessarily in a King of Pentacles type of way where he has the resources, but with the King of Wands, it's all about having the drive to go after it. So that's where I'm gonna end this. Like I said, things are constantly moving and evolving and in motion. So all the possibilities are still there. We just have to reach out and call to it with a voice that is clear and honest and that will cut through the fog, through the mist, right to what it is and bring it in. So that's where I'm going to end this. It's been like 3 hours of me just ranting and rambling. It's been fun, darling. It's been fun. Hopefully, something in here resonated for y'all. Something in here will resonate moving forward. Um, I don't know. Like, I feel like do the work isn't actual advice that would be necessarily helpful, but if you handle things as they come up, and again, if you process them, it's like instead of having all of that tower energy in one moment in time, you can stretch it out. And it's so much more like manageable. And also at the same time, you're in this space of constantly aligning and realigning yourself to your highest timeline, right? And it's not just like these portals, these gateways, these dates. It's like I said, it's like I had a dream last November, December, that there was a race to a portal, right? And it was only open for a certain amount of time. And so in that dream, I was hauling butt, like running, flying at the speed of light to get to this portal because I went back for somebody else. And so when we get there, it's like the portal was closing and the person was hesitating. And I was like, hey, look, I ain't got time to hesitate and I'm not missing this. So if you're not coming, you're not coming. And I'm going to this portal. And I went in the portal and the other person hesitated and they were left out. Um, and that's the thing. It's like when these doorways open, you want to be there. You don't want to have to get there. You want to already be there when it happens. And then the first part of the test, and I don't think I've ever gone back to this dream to see what the subsequent parts of it were, but the first part of the test was coming into the inner child. And that was the only way to navigate past that test. Now, the thing about the inner child in this dream was the inner child had, through the power of its imagination and through the power, it's like raw imagination, but also belief. Through the powers of imagination and belief, the inner child was able to create and manifest solutions that an adult mind wouldn't be able to think of, right? And it also happened in a very like adventurous way, because it was like instead of it being a direct solution, the inner child turned it into a game. And I was like, well, first you do this, and then it opens up this, and then like how a kid will use their imagination to like create 15 different steps in between, you and what you need to do. And it's like, well, why don't we just go over there and open? It's like, no, you can't because there's a wall there or there's lava there, so you got to come around over here and we got to talk to this princess and we got to do this and then we'll get this and then we got to like it's a game. And when you're not in that space, you're not engaging with it and playing with it in the way that it's sort of meant to be. Like it was so creative and it led to unique solutions and all kinds of stuff. But like, and that was like I entered this. I was the last person to get there because again, I was hauling butt trying to get there and also trying to get somebody else in there. It was closed, and I was like, I can't wait. And I left. I don't even feel bad. Shoot. I was like, you know what? First of all, I went back for you to get you this far, and I'm not going to miss out for you. I'm sorry. Right. And so I'm the last one there. People are like running around. It's kind of sort of like an Amazing Race, and I've never seen Amazing Race. So is it really? I don't know. But it's like it took place in a children's library. And so I'm looking at notes. I'm like, because I'm like, I feel like we're not the first people to be in here. So I'm like, I was with somebody else when I came in. I left one person on the outside, but when I was in, I was kind of sort of in a group, or I was just like kind of sort of being a team player, even though we were supposed to be competing. For me, it wasn't a competition, right? And I wasn't necessarily in it to try to win. I was just in it for the challenge, I guess. I don't know. But I'm like other people are like scrambling around trying to do whatever. I'm like, well, let me like pick up somebody's notes to see if maybe they left the clue behind. None of the notes helped. But then there was like the guard, or there was a person standing watch over us, right? And I was like, I think I might have been the only person to go up to this person and be like, hey, so like, what are we doing here? What are we supposed to be doing? And he was just like, go over there and look in the mirror. And it was like this mall, right? And so there there were these like reflective surfaces all over the place. And so I looked up at the ceiling and there was a reflective surface. I was like, that doesn't like help me. And then somebody else was there. I think honestly in the dream, I think it was my mom. Of course it would be. But she was like, he said, look in the mirror, not like look up there. And I was like, well, they're all mirrors. And she was like, come on. And so we went to this, it was like a tree, but it was made out of mirrors. And we went to the tree or something like, I'm trying to remember. I know there was a tree of mirrors. Yeah. And my mom looked into the mirror and she started freaking out. And I was like, whoa, what's happening? And so I look into the mirror and I see myself as a child. And I'm like, oh, I know exactly what we're supposed to do. Right? For her, it was like, why am I a child in this mirror? But for me, as soon as I saw myself as a child in this mirror, I knew what the solution was. I don't know how I knew. But I go back to the room and I'm talking to the guard and I'm like, oh my gosh, I figured out how to solve this. And he just like kind of sort of looked at me and smiled. And it was that imagination and belief. And instead of me forcing my imagination to do something, I was led by I was led by my imagination to do something. So in my imagination, it was like go over to the bookshelf and pull out a book, right? And it'll be one of those bookshelves where it's like you pull a certain book and it unveils something and it like makes something else move, and it did that. And then it was this record player, and I was like, well, now I gotta manifest or now I gotta come up with a vinyl. And somebody else was like, and when I went back in, I like pretty much told whoever was listening to me, I was like, the solution is the inner child, right? Because again, I'm not necessarily competing, not like competing, but I'm in the race. And so somebody else was like, okay, well, let me take it from this step. And then they did something with the record player. And I would have like put a song on it because it's like a record player. I would have gotten a vinyl and like put it on there. But they ended up doing something different. And it opened up like this trap door that led to the next phase. And I woke up before we went to the next phase of the race. But I guess the thing about the inner child is like, it's seeing the self stripped of everything that everything that's been put onto it as we've grown. It's the Scarlet Shield, that Queen of Swords energy, right? Where it was like there are these things, these default programs that have worked their way into us that is not of us. It's not us. And the more we hang on to it and the tighter we hold on to it, the less room we give ourselves to come into all that, there is. And that was the thing about the mirror. Now, in my mind, it just read like inner child and connect to the inner child. But now it's like, see yourself and the truest nature of who you are, free of all of everything that's been put upon you, free of all the ways that you've had to learn and adapt, and allow the truth of who you are to lead you to the solution that is uniquely yours, right? So that was it. I can't remember why I brought that up, but I feel like that's sort of the part. Maybe 2020, all of 2020 is just like the first leg of the race. Um, Maybe not. I don't know. So I'm gonna shut this down now. My head has been hurting for a minute. My throat is getting dry because I've been talking so much. And I'm gonna catch y'all later. I was gonna do. I don't think I'm gonna do the weekly release. I might. I don't think I'm gonna do it. I was gonna do it yesterday, but then yesterday was like, well, Patrick, why don't you take this day for yourself? I was like, what? How do I even do that? Like, no live? They're like, yeah, no live. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll figure it out. The more or less sacral, our solar plexus will be coming, and I'll catch y'all whenever I catch y'all. For those of y'all watching this, I feel like if you find me over here, and this is the thing, our attention is divine, and I feel like again, mine is an energy that I don't think it's like I can hold space for people, but I don't know how many folks I can like walk with because it's like it's my pace, it's the way I do things, and I'm so not at peace, but it's like my birth cards are the Tower and the Chariot. And so in order for me to make movement and in order for me to make progress, I have to let and allow the things to fall around me that no longer serve. And it is a continuous and continual process for me. And so I feel like my energy can be very like stormy and chaotic. And it's like I'm always at the center of that storm. Even when I'm not at the center of the storm, I'm at the center of the storm. And I don't know why. This is so weird. Oh, I don't like it. Oh, I don't like it. I can feel my voice literally like reverberating through my whole body. Okay, there we go. It calmed down. All right. Ooh, thank you. Goodness. Maybe if I do this. Oh, yeah. Nope, not doing that. Because, see, when I lean in like this and when I talk, I can literally feel my voice from my throat box down to like, I don't know, I can just feel it reverberating within me and it feels so weird. But maybe it's because I'm speaking from a space. But yeah, I feel like my energy is very chaotic. And there's a lot that kind of sort of it kind of sort of sits at the intersection of a lot of stuff. And in that way I feel like it kind of sort of requires a lot to stay on top of it. And so I don't know, because I remember like I can, oh, this is so weird. Oh, my voice is like, and just talking, it's just reverberating in my body in a way that is just so nasty. It's like if you get too close to like if you're at a concert or something where there's like a lot of bass and it just like shakes the inside of your body. That's what it feels like. The inside of my body is shaking, but all I'm doing is talking. Um, but yeah, so I remember one time because like I feel like I can sort of enter people's energetic fields, and I was like, I kind of want to try to like walk into somebody else's energy and like ground it. And I kind of sort of offered it to somebody, and I was like, well, before I do this, just know that like for me, things come incredibly quickly, and I just gotta, I'm just on top of it. And so I feel like if anyone tries to like push into my energy for whatever reason, that's what it is. And if you ain't ready to just like fly in the wind, girl, you may be that cow from Twister. But anyway, um, And that's another thing that I kind of sort of got to keep in mind. For everybody, it happens at a different pace. So I don't know where I'm going with that. Um, but yeah, excuse me. That's what I like about being over here. Right, this is a space where I'm not gonna slow it down, and it's gonna come how it comes. And if it's weird, girl, it's weird. I might preface things by saying I'm weird and blah 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 blah, blah, right. But anyway, I've oh my gosh, it's already been 3 hours and 23 minutes. I'm procrastinating now for the end of this. I'm gonna shut this down. I'm gonna see y'all whenever I see y'all again. I found that the easiest way to be on top of everything is to stay on top of everything. Maybe it'll help, maybe it won't. It's my unique perspective, and you know, we'll get there when we get there. Certainly, surely. And until next time, I will see you all later. I hope you have wonderful, fantastic nights, wonderful, fantastic days. And again, whatever is illuminated in your life, I hope you find your unique path and your unique way out of it.